Wow. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Conspiracy or Not. Here you come for your listening displeasure. But tonight, it will be better than displeasure. Look who we have. We have the man, we have the legend, we have Jordan Maxwell. And it is my very great pleasure and honor to speak with you, Jordan. How are you?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to be with you. I don't know. We'll find out how I'm doing later on in the program.
How have you been feeling lately? And before we get started, I just want to go ahead and go over the niceties again and just reintroduce you to my co-hosts and my friends. We have Amy. Say hello, Amy.
Hello, Jordan, and hello,
Hello, Amy.
everybody that's listening.
And my other co-host, we have Gandalf. Gandalf
Or
is
We
or
have
maybe
Gandalf the
not.
mute.
oh, he's on mute. Oh, he did Gandalf did remind me that he had something to take care of that was going to interfere with the beginning of the show. So he's probably busy doing that and he'll be back in just a couple of minutes. But of course, we have the lovely Influence Freedom. So hello.
Hey.
All right, awesome. I'm glad everybody's here. We did have a little bit of a scare, and I did want to apologize to everybody for our lateness. But as usual, we are a little bit less than professional around here, and everybody pretty much knows that. Amy, would you do me a favor and go over to my channel and confirm that we're live and that we have an audience and that everything is good over there? I
We are indeed live. I have already done that. We've got 6 people watching now, but I imagine that number will increase.
oh, they will filter in momentarily. I'm certain of that. So,
No
wow.
doubt.
Okay, so let me just go ahead and read this bio real quick. Um, Jordan Maxwell continues as a preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of occult religious philosophy. His interest in these subjects began as far back as 1959. He served for 3.5 years as the religious editor of Truth Seeker magazine, America's oldest free thought journal since 1873. His work exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies creates enthusiastic responses from audiences around the world. He has conducted dozens of intensive seminars, hosted his own radio talk shows, guested on more than 600 radio shows, and written, produced, and appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries, including 3 2-hour specials for the CBS TV network, as well as the internationally acclaimed 5-part Ancient Mystery series, all devoted to understanding ancient religions and their pervasive influence on world affairs today. His work on the subject of secret societies, both ancient and modern, and their symbols, has fascinated audiences the world for decades. Considering the rapidly moving events of today and the very real part of hidden religions agencies play in our modern war-torn world, he feels these controversial subjects are not only interesting to explore, but too important to ignore. His extraordinary presentations include documents and photographs seldom seen elsewhere. So, again, I would just like to say, Jordan, thank you so much for your time. It is my very great pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Jordan, I've been following you for quite some time, as I'm sure most of my, or at least many of my subscribers have also. And one of the things that I have been infinitely fascinated about since I'm a young boy, and my English teacher introduced me to the works of Homer with the Iliad and the Odyssey. I have forever been fascinated with the subjects of mythology, starting with the Greeks and then to the Romans, and as I got older into Egyptology, and then looking deeper into other cultures, ancient cultures around the world. I have traveled somewhat extensively. I've been down to Mexico and took private tours of 3 separate Mayan ruins. And next year, I intend to drive my RV halfway across the country to visit some of the dolmen sites in America. So these are subjects that fascinate me intensely. One of the other things that got me interested that you got me interested in was etymology, the source and origin of our language, in particular words and how they relate to each other and where they come from and what do they really mean. And so you've been a real inspiration in giving me a kickstart into the research that I've been doing for many years, as well as I'm certain that many, many other people feel the same way. Giving me
Yes, the study of words, because how do you produce a word?
You
You do it
spell
with
it.
a spell.
Yeah, you spell the word. That's correct.
You spell it.
Yep.
And so when people are talking to you, you are trying to follow their words to understand what they're saying. But the problem is the very word understand means you have to stand under the subject you're listening to get a good understanding. Most people don't stand under any subject. They just take it for what it's worth and believe it and promote it and perpetuate it and never realize doesn't mean what you think it does. It doesn't say what you think it says. You've just been told things by people who don't know. And that's why the Bible says the blind lead the blind, and both will fall into the pit because neither one of you know what's going on. The person teaching you doesn't have the faintest idea, and he has no idea where the ideas have come from, the concepts and what the words mean. And he's out teaching, and he's a reverend in the church, and he's teaching people, and they figure since he's a reverend and he's teaching in a church, he must know what he's talking about. Well, not necessarily, because most people have no idea in the world what's going on. And I learned that as a kid, and that's why I never listened to officials and people in government and church leaders, people who are looked up to in this world. I want nothing to do with them. They're ignorant and they're usually well paid to tell me lies and to lie to me and keep me stupid. And I decided a long time ago as a kid, I don't want to be stupid. I want to know for sure something. So I've done my own homework, and after a while, it became so overwhelmingly obvious to me. Somebody needs to tell the people the truth, and there's just virtually no truth in the world. And so there is a way to find it if you want to look for it, but most people know it's so full of bull out there that nobody's interested in trying to find the truth. And so that's why we have an ignorant world that's being ripped off and lied to and cheated. And it's incredible what has happened to the human family. We have not wanted to fool with trying to educate ourselves. And now there's no use in trying because even the education we get is a lie and deception. Science is not science, it's a religion. And religion should be a science, but it's not. Religion should be scientific, but it's not, unfortunately. And science should be science, but it's not. It's a religion. And they have their holy men, their holy reverends, and all the important scientists who are the holy reverends, and they have the truth and all the truth of the wisdom of the universe. And we know that it's the truth of the universe that the scientists are telling us because every 8 to 10 years, everything changes in science. It's all changed. What we believed 10 years ago, we now know wasn't true. But all the poor people who listened to the scientists 10 years ago, they still believe the lie. And then you come to find out, no, 99% of what science tells you is opinion. Nobody knows for sure. And so I've had enough of that. I do my own reading and my own studying, and I always say to an audience, I'm not the world's foremost expert on anything. I'm just an ordinary man who's pursuing extraordinary knowledge. But I know how to read, and I learned how to think and how to concentrate on subjects. And I've spent over 60 years looking at the subjects that I deal with. Most people have not spent 60 minutes. I've spent 60 years. And I have so many people who tell me today that they can't understand why I'm saying the things I am and why I would say what I do because it's so horrible and so terrible. And I said, yeah, I know the truth is very difficult to handle. Like the movie said, the young lawyer asked the guy on the bench, I want to know. He said, "What are you doing? What do you want to know? What are you doing?" And the kid said, "I want the truth." He said, "You can't handle the truth." That's my feeling. People tell me they want the truth. I'm thinking, I don't think you do. I don't think you want the truth.
Well, you're among friends here, Jordan, and we do want the truth. I think everybody here on this panel, and I think I would assume everyone in my audience would rather have the ugly truth than the beautiful fantasy. So so
Absolutely.
so lay it on us.
Well,
Lay it on us, old timer. Listen,
okay.
we chatted privately the other day, and thank you again for your time. We had a private conversation a couple days ago, just and we ran a test to make sure that you could get into the Google Hangout with us and all that. Uh, During that conversation, you had mentioned that you will be doing your last public appearance this coming February. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, it's going to be in Laughlin, Nevada. Laughlin, Nevada is about 50 miles south in Nevada, 50 miles south of Las Vegas. And it's on a major highway, and you can look it up on a map. Laughlin, Nevada is about 50 miles south of Las Vegas. And it's just like Las Vegas, but it's smaller and more classy. Really classy place. Nice restaurants, beautiful hotels, casinos, and it's right on the Colorado River. So they got all kinds of kids out there playing in the river and boats going back and forth in the river. And it's really an exciting and beautiful place. It's called Laughlin, Nevada. And in February, there's a big conference being held to promote my work. And they are saying that I will be the keynote speaker, and I will be the guest, the guest of honor at the conference because they're honoring my work, which I thought was very nice of them. And it's going to be a very big conference because they got like 30 different speakers coming from all over the world talking about my kind of subjects: the Illuminati, secret societies, UFOs, ancient religions, mythology, cults, all kinds of interesting things. And I'm going to be doing, I think, two-hour lectures. And there I will be presenting material that's not been presented before. And I think it will be my last because I'm 80 years old. So my feeling is this will be my last public appearance if I could even do that. If I can even accomplish that, because I've done so many shows over the years and travel around the world extensively, and I really am tired. But
So
I feel that the subjects I want to present are so important, I will force myself to go and to present my work to the world because I want people to hear what I have to say. I've been looking at this crazy world for 60 years. And when you look at one subject for 60 years, usually about the 59th year, you start to dawn on you certain truths, certain things which are obvious. And I've been seeing it all my life. And the more I see it, the more I begin to realize how much people don't know. And so that's what I do. I try and wake people up to the reality of the world we live in. But in doing so, I realize I am trying to empty the Pacific with a cup
yeah,
because there's almost 8 billion people who couldn't care less, who don't even know that they're alive. They just live from one day to the next like they're pets. They have no idea that they're alive. They have no idea where they've come from, how they got to this earth, and and what are they doing here, and when they die, where are they going? Nobody seems to know, like George Carlin says, and nobody seems to care. And I like what George Carlin said about the people who run this planet. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
right.
And so once you start looking at what the guys in the big club are actually saying, listen to what they say, and listen to their concepts and ideas, And after about 60, 65 years, you will begin to see who these people really are and what they're actually doing. And it's going to be horrible when you finally wake up and see who's really running this world. The earth is in the hands of some of the most diabolical criminals the world has ever known. I mean, the Al Capones of the 30s can't hold a candle to the people who are running the planet today. And
So,
it's really incredible.
so this February, it's called MegaCon at the Aquarius Hotel. Isn't that what you told me the other night?
That's it.
Okay.
It's called MegaCon at the Aquarius Hotel in February.
Amy's got something. Go ahead, Amy.
Uh, the question was asked, is this open to the public?
Oh, of course it is. Of course it
Okay.
is. Open
I
to
figured
everyone.
it probably was, but I wanted to verify that for the
Yep.
listener.
Yeah, I did want to clarify that also. It's called MegaCon, and it will be held February 14th to the 22nd. Jordan, where can people go if they wanted to get tickets to attend?
You know what? I think, did you find it on the web yet?
I haven't found it. No, you just told me about it the other day, and I just wanted to help any listener who might be interested in showing up.
Yeah, I think if you go on the web to UFO conference MegaCon in Laughlin, Nevada, 2020 February, and it should pop up. It should pop up pretty quick. You'll see it, and it will give you all the information. The people who putting it on were going to send me the link, and I should have that link, and maybe I'll send it to you, and then you can put it on your website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just go on the web and go to UFO conference MegaCon Laughlin, Nevada, February 2020.
Yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of people in my chat who have wrenches, and if anybody has a moment would like to go and look that up, and
That would be good.
anyone who has a wrench has the ability to drop links in the chat. So if somebody would do us the favor, $300 for tickets. Friday the 13th, the tribe says $300 tickets. So yeah, it is what it is, man. If you want to go,
It's
then
going to be like 7
it's
days.
7 days. That's a big conference.
Huge conference. They got people, speakers and scientists, astronomers, all kinds of physicists and scientists talking about the world we live in, who are not in the mainstream, who are not part of the mainstream, talking about the real story, what's going on the earth that you've never heard. And it's going to be about 30 different speakers from around the world. This is going to be mega big.
Okay,
And,
so
and I'm going to be there doing what I do, hopefully.
so one of my people with wrenches any minute now will probably be finding it and dropping the link in the side chat for whoever is interested. And once that's there, Amy or somebody will grab it, and then we'll make sure that it finds its way into the description box under this video. And
I have looked it up, but the only thing I found was a Facebook page, and I don't go to Facebook.
I don't ever
the
use
link.
Facebook.
Yeah, I found a bunch of stuff of other people presenting there, but I haven't found the
Well,
specific.
forget Facebook and just go on the web and type in UFO
Yeah,
conference.
what I get is like there's a YouTube, and I'm not sure who this is. I have Brad Olson.
Brad is going to be there for sure.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
dear friend of mine. He's going to be there. Yeah.
He's got a YouTube video about it. And
Okay.
there's a couple of other places like let me see. Here's something.
Brad is a very, very nice guy. I really like Brad. He's a very, very nice person and very sharp. He really does his homework. And he talks about the occult world, which I'm very interested in. and he should be very interesting. It'll be an interesting conference, no doubt about that. It's going to be my last big one, my last conference I will be able to attend.
Okay, I found it. I found it. I found it. I'm going to drop it into the universe as soon as I get the universe back up here.
Cool. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
So, Jordan, you're going to be spilling some beans, you said?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the biggest secret of the secret societies that run our planet and guide our destiny. The symbol, one of the most important symbols of the single most powerful secret society in the world, and how they run our life from behind the scenes in such a way that even when you see it, you're not going to believe it. How that symbol is used everywhere. All of the corporations of the world use the same symbol, the same words, the police departments, the military, the churches, governmental structures, banking, corporations. There's everywhere you look as a secret society symbol. And it's telling you something about what's coming on the earth. And everybody uses it, especially in religion and government. And nobody even recognizes it. They see it, they just go past it because everybody's seeing it, and they see it every day, and they don't have any idea in the world what that symbol actually means. And that's what I'm going to do when I get into Laughlin. I want to talk about this one and most important symbol in the whole world that the Nazis used, Adolf Hitler used it, the communists used it, Karl Marx used it, Trotsky, Lenin, all the leaders of the world communist movement have used it. They wear it as a badge. They wear the symbol. They talk about the symbol. They talk about today. All the presidents of the United States have used the same identical symbol and the same identical words and it means all the same thing. What I'm saying is that the people who play our presidents in this country, except for Trump, I've never heard him use the term. But all the presidents before Trump have used the same word and same symbol, and they promote it as if it was a wonderful thing for people to know. It's a wonderful idea, never realizing for the moment where that symbol actually came from. And why is it used all over the world today? Why is it so prevalent in our world today? There's a reason why. And when it finally dawns on you that everywhere on the earth the same idea is used in higher education, in religion, philosophy, government, military industrial complex, education, police departments, fire departments, all kinds of governmental agencies are using the same symbol for something which is very frightening, and they have no idea about it. They've been using it for so long, they just never even thought about it. And wait till you find out and see
It's the
how
star.
pervasive this thing really is.
I
The
was
Star of
thinking
David, isn't it?
I was thinking the five-pointed star.
Well, that is used a lot, but that's not it. The five-pointed star is also used around the world by so many people, but that's not really what I'm talking about.
I rem-
Okay,
I
well,
And it's a kind of thing I would prefer not talking about because first of all, you have to, in order to really impress upon your mind the importance of this, you have to see what I have assembled. You have to see it being presented in movies, television shows, nightly news, all the major news programs of CNN and NBC, all the major motion picture companies around the world, all over Hollywood. You have to see it with your own eyes, which I do. It'll take about 2 hours. I'm going to show all the places around the world that this symbol is used, and nobody seems to have asked the question, what does it mean? What's the implication of everybody on the damn earth using the same symbol, using the same words, and never dawned on anybody to ask the question? So I did. I realized something was wrong over 50 years ago when I first found this symbol. When I first saw it, because I had been studying since 1959. I have been reading and studying about secret societies and occultism in the world I live in. And there's one symbol I kept seeing. It wasn't until 1967 that I finally found out what it meant, because I had been looking for it over the years since 1959 to 67. And it finally found the reason why the symbol and what it means and what it's saying and what it implies. And when I found that back in 1967, I really jumped on this subject big time and started really researching it, because now I know what it means. And so it's the kind of thing, if you're not looking for it, you'll never see it. You'll look at it and it'll be a pretty emblem, it'll be a pretty thing. And it's interesting what's being said about it, but you better go back and do your homework. It's not what you think it is. And so I think it's better for me to probably show it and explain it than try and tell you right now.
Are you going to spill those beans at the conference?
Oh yeah, that's the whole idea. I'm putting this thing together. It's going to be an extraordinary expose on the world of conspiracy, because I'm not a conspiracy. What do you call it?
Theorist. A
Conspiracy what?
theorist. Theorist. You're not a theorist. You're an analyst.
No, conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I'm a conspiracy analyst. I
Right.
like to analyze things intellectually and go back and trace the words and the etymology and what does it mean 500 years ago, and what does it mean 100 years ago, and what does it mean now, and why now has it changed. And so there's a big story here about how the world of mankind, not just Americans, but the entire world, has been completely deceived about where we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. Somebody else is in control of our destiny as a human race, and they're guiding us into a dark, dark place. And you have no idea in the world how dark it's going to be.
I do have an idea, Jordan. I did a show 2 weeks ago, and we covered a couple of articles and advertisements that have been. This is very, very recent breaking stuff within the last couple of weeks and months, going back at most to 2014, where our governments and media are trying to find ways to convince people to eat bugs and insects, and now we've got this horrible hysteria surrounding climate change, and it used to be global warming. Either way, they blaming it on you and me, and it's our fault. And the only way to curb that is to stop eating red meat, because cattle production puts out too much CO2, they say. And so now they're talking about how to convince people to eat bugs and insects for protein. And more recently, they're talking about how to get people to get over the stigma of eating human flesh.
Right.
Just a couple of weeks ago, Jordan, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, it blew my socks off. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a symposium in Switzerland where a Swedish scientist was proposing eating, I think it's human flesh, human meat, how we can curb global warming by reducing our beef or cattle consumption by switching to human meat. If we could only get people over the stigma of eating human meat. He took a poll, and this is part of what I covered in my show. I don't know how many he had in his audience. I imagine a couple of hundred people, maybe 1,000 or 2,000. I don't know how big the auditorium was. But he polled his audience, and then the article said that he had 8%, 8% of his audience raised their hand when he asked the question, would you at least try it? Would you at least taste it or try it? And they say, telling us that 8%. So when I did my show 2 weeks ago, I polled my own audience, and I couldn't even get 1%. And I had some 25, 30 people watching a couple of weeks ago.
Let's get. We couldn't even get one. Period.
I couldn't even get one upvote or one yes answer, let alone 1%.
Yes.
You've got a group of people that actually take the time to think things through, and that's why we're all here. I just want to say that if I was going to take a guess, I'm going to claim the Ouroboros, and then I'm going to be quiet about that. So that's what I just wanted to add in there really quick. But yeah, it's very disgusting, and we have been being programmed for the cannibalism, and that would also feed into the Ouroboros.
You know, I'm a big fan of Richard Dawkins. I hold the man in high regard. And
Yeah,
I
I do
discovered,
too.
I discovered, Jordan, in 2014, Richard Dawkins himself actually proposed eating lab-grown human meat. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Richard
Well,
Dawkins.
if you're gonna be able to lab grow meat, why would you choose human? And the fact that they would even be programmed to say such things to the human population really shows the stage that they should not have amongst us.
That's
Yes.
exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
If you
What?
can if you can grow human meat in a lab for human consumption on a industrial scale, then why can't you grow beef in a laboratory on industrial scale? So
Yeah, you're right. I understand.
it's as
It's just
bizarre.
incredible. Totally
So
animalistic and bestiality and lunacy. It's incredible the kind of stuff they're coming up with. But that's what we're heading for. We're heading for all of this stuff, the artificial intelligence and the dehumanizing of the human family. That's what I see happening, a dehumanizing of the human family. And
Did you ever think that you would be alive to see the time that they would be telling the children that it's okay to self-mutilate their genitals to become another so-called gender, or that we would live in a time where they would say that it's okay to take babies up to 9 months? I mean, we're about 30 years apart, but I honestly did not think I would live to see these 2 moments come to pass.
yeah, I know. It's just incredible because I've seen it back in 1959 and I started talking about it at little mom and pop uh, stores, little mom and pop libraries and bookstores. And then I started giving lectures in 1960 in libraries and I would advertise it around the city and do the lectures myself. And it was on slide programs. I'd make the slides showing where we were going, where we're heading. We're going to be eating each other. It's going to be a dark and evil place. And I was showing even back then, back in 1960, how the secret societies were planning on completely and throwing people into prison en masse for money, and they make money off of you when you go to prison. There's I've talked about this before. I don't know if it was on your show, but I talked about it before. Let's see if I have the documents here. I want to quote this so you could do your own research. I found that there is a company that's an insurance company, a worldwide insurance company. And that insurance company pays lawyers and judges. And it pays judges large sums of money at the end of the year. Each year, judges get a handsome check. And I wish I could find the name of that company again. There's a company, it's an insurance company for courts. And this
it's a
insurance
trust
company,
fund, isn't it?
it's a trust fund, yeah. And but I had the documents here, but I don't have them right now.
Doesn't that show that judges all of them, if they're getting checks from this trust fund, doesn't that show that every single judge on the bench has a conflict of interest?
That's exactly right. They have a conflict of interest, yes, because they are accepting large sums of money to find people guilty. That's what this article I was reading, Government Magazine, talks about, and I can't find that. I didn't think we would get into this. So that's why I didn't have the documents ready. But there is a company, an insurance company that is the insurance company for all courts. And the idea is if a judge can find you guilty of a felony, if a judge can find you guilty of a felony, he gets a large check, kickback check at the end of the year for every single person he found to be a felony. If he can make it a felony, he gets paid by the insurance companies. And it's an insurance company that will ensure that the court will make money off of everybody, because all crime is in commerce. People don't know that, but all crime
Oh,
is in commerce.
we do. Around here, we definitely know those things.
It's a business.
Absolutely.
If
And boy, when you find out your body is a biological battery, and therefore, if you're guilty of a crime under maritime admiralty law, which is the law of water, and if you're in a court, you're in hot water, and you're found guilty, if you cannot bail yourself out, that's what you do in a boat, you bail yourself out. If you can't get bail, then they're going to put your body into a cell, which is we call a battery. And so your body is going into a cell, which we put into our flashlights, into a battery cell. And
oh,
so the entire legal and lawful operation in the Western world is an absolute filthy system of lies and deception, and using people's ignorance and using their fear to frighten them into doing things which are totally unlawful. And it's just a massive, massive cover up. And I've been trying to wake people up to what's been going on for a long time.
Amy, why don't you go ahead and ask the question that your friend gave you?
Oh, okay. My friend wanted to know, do you know about the Black Book of the Admiralty?
The black something of the Admiralty.
Black Book of the Admiralty.
Oh yeah, the Black Book of the Admiralty. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I wasn't. I thought you said Bush, Bush.
No, Black Book.
Yeah, yeah. The Black Book has been used as there have been many different black books that have been put out in secret by governments. I remember there were black books put out many years ago. When I was a kid, I heard about the black books that were about in religion, about the religious leaders of the world, were in black books. Then I heard about the black book of the underworld, the mafiosis, the gangsters of the world. Their organizations and organized crime were in a black book. And since you and I both understand what admiralty implies, and there is a black book explaining all the dark secrets of how the law actually works. And so, yeah, it's a hell of a story. It's scary, actually. It's actually frightening when
I
you
would
wake up and
love to
find
hear
out
the
that
story.
when you wake up and find out your government is far, far gone. It's too far gone to save, and that's what Trump is up against. He's trying to turn things around. But as far as I'm concerned, we have been putting up with the criminals and letting it grow and fester and grow and get bigger and bigger and deeper and worse until now we finally have to do something, at least look at what we've done, at
And
least look at where we are. And
I
when we look at where we are, we're going to find out we should have done something about this a long time ago.
I have a question relative to Trump and all of that. Okay, by my research, I have determined that the government is a corporation. And
Of course it is.
if the government is a corporation,
So are you.
and well, yes, I know that too, but the question I would have is, if the government is a corporation, would it allow Joe Public to choose its CEO? I'm thinking not. I think Trump was chosen, and I think that he's just as much a puppet as any of the others that have been up there. But
I think you're right. I'm sure you're right
So
because obviously corporations do not ever change their color. They merely change their administration of the corporation.
yeah, they change the illusion.
Yeah, it's the administration. They whoever's going to administer this organization for 4 years, the corporation owners, the people who actually run the planet, they will pick 4 to 6 people that already work for them, and they will put them out there for the people of the corporation to pick which one they like. And so when you pick which one you like and you vote on it, when you go to the polls, you're not voting for anybody. You're merely showing which person you like.
Yep.
Ultimately, it will be it will be the what do they call it? The that group that picks the president.
The
Collegiate?
The
yeah,
Electoral College.
Electoral College.
Electoral College. They pick
was
the
gonna do
president based on who the people of the country most liked. The one that the people liked the most, they voted for. So that's the ones the corporation heads who own the corporation will put in the position of president of the corporation.
right, but
But we know that the president does not mean much about anything. Presidents of any company do not mean much.
yeah,
It's the
they're
people who own the corporation. They call the
exactly,
shots.
exactly. Yeah, they're the ones that put up the ones we get to decide which ones we like the most of to begin with.
That's right. That's all it is. That's why you go to a poll. A poll is just to see what you like and what you don't like. Who is it you don't like? And who is it you like? Well, we will put the one you say you like, we'll put him into power. So next year, when you find out that he's working for us and he's a crumb and a criminal, well, you're the one that voted for him. You said you liked him, so you're the one that voted for him.
Heads I
So
win, tails you lose.
that's it. And
Yeah.
and you're the one that voted for him. So then you find out, yeah, but the whole gang that was on that platform, they all work for you. Yeah, I know that. That's why I don't care who wins, because they all work for me.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
and so it's really an interesting story how the world works. And there are little tiny things, little small things that people don't realize about the law and about the world they live in. Did I tell you the last time I was on the show about when a cop gives you a ticket, what you can do with it?
I've heard things about it, but like what you sign instead of signing your name, you sign something. You write down received for payment. Is that it?
No, but that's close. What I was going to tell you, what I'm going to tell you, first of all, I have to give the uh, the discrediting part. Don't follow anything I'm saying because I'm not a lawyer. And I would highly, highly suggest you don't do anything with the information I give you, because the information I am giving you, I give you because I have actually been in the company of the experts who teach other experts and seen what they were able to do with my own eyes. I was there and saw what they did, and I saw that it worked, and it worked over and over again. So I know certain things that will work, but I would not myself dare to touch them. I wouldn't even bother to do it. Why? Because if you don't know the whole story, you're not an expert, you're going to go to prison. Because the powers that be in this world find out that you know how this game is played, they will come after you. They'll find some
They'll bury you.
misplaced comma, they'll find a misplaced
That's
comma
right.
on your income tax,
And
and they'll throw you into prison because they don't want you out there talking about something that they know works. And so that's why I'm telling you, don't do anything with the word with what I'm telling you.
okay.
But I will explain to you certain little things that will show you the kind of situation they've set up for us. For instance, when you get a ticket, when a cop comes up to your car and he's writing you a ticket, he's standing there and he's writing the ticket, and then he signs it and dates it and signs it, and he hands the book to you, and you have to sign it. And then now you are expected to pay the ticket. But what that ticket is a ticket in commerce
It's a receipt.
because you're expected to pay something. You're expected to pay money for the ticket. You get the same ticket identical when you walk into a big department store and buy a pair of clothes
Yep.
or new shoes or something. They're going to, whatever it is you want, but they were going to give you a ticket and you sign it. And now you're expected to pay that ticket. Well, when the cop gives you the ticket, he signs it first, and then he hands it to you, and you are a undersigner. You are a co-signer. He's the one that got the ticket. He's the one that signed the ticket. You didn't. He signed it. He signed the ticket. He is responsible to pay it. You are a co-signer. That if he doesn't pay it, then you have to pay it, and everybody expects that they have to pay it. No, you are a co-signer. And so if you take that ticket and photocopy it and send it with an affidavit to the Secretary of State of the state in which you live and say, I have made a mistake. Please help me. I have made a mistake. I have co-signed for someone I don't want to co-sign for. Now that I've thought about it, I don't want to co-sign for this man. He signed the ticket and then he asked me to co-sign it, and I co-signed it. I don't want to co-sign it. I don't want to be responsible for this. And you send it to the Secretary of State. She gives it to the treasurer, the state treasurer, and he sends it to the sheriff in the city in which the ticket was written, and the sheriff goes out to the cop's house and tells him, "Here's a ticket. You got to pay it." The guy you gave it to decided he didn't want to pay it. That means you better pay it. And the cop will say, "Yeah, but I give him a ticket. It's his." No, it's not his. You signed it. You're the one that wrote it, and you signed it first. He was a co-signer, and he decided he doesn't want to co-sign. So now you have to pay it. I've seen it work many different times. I've seen it, and it was very interesting watching what happens when the cop finds out he's got a $300 or $400 ticket. He has to pay.
Wow,
Why?
really?
Because you decided you don't want to co-sign for him. So that's the way the world works. The whole idea in this world is to get you to do something that you think you're supposed to do. And you think it's the law. Oh, that's the law. No, it's not the law. It's a trick. And once you find out how these tricks work, now you don't. Now you understand why you have to go to court, because you got to play tennis on a court. You play basketball on a court.
And you play
The
with a
whole
racket.
yeah, the whole idea in tennis, playing tennis on the court, is to play with a racket. That's what you're doing. You're playing with an absolute criminal racket.
Yeah,
It's called courts.
everybody on this panel, and I'm pretty sure every one of my audience members is completely aware of the legal fiction known as the straw man. And I took a
That's right.
and they say that on your checkbook, if you look at your personal checks, the line
I
that you
said that.
was it
I
you?
said that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, the line that you sign on, it's not a line, it's actually text, and the text says authorized signature. And if you take a magnifying glass and look at the line where you sign your check, it actually is not a line, it actually is text that says authorized signature.
And the reason why That's why attorneys will always tell you read the fine print,
And including the lines.
including the line you
No,
sign on. The line you sign on a check, get a magnifying glass and look at that line.
Yeah,
It's not a line.
it isn't.
It's text.
it's not a line, it's text.
It's not a line. It's text. But you didn't read the fine print, and the devil is in the details.
I have a question relative to all this. Now, let us presume that I am born sovereign. I don't know that I am sovereign because I've been indoctrinated into this system to believe that I am not.
That's
And
right.
coming upon this realization that I am sovereign, I have chosen to withdraw my consent from the legal system, the governmental system, all of it. But rather than create controversy by refusing to be subject, I counter their offer to make me subject with an offer of my own. I will be happy to be subject if you prove I am subject. Now, I have been told that this is remedy.
That's what we call it. It's called remedy.
Yep.
And I've seen it happen many times where I've seen people who owe lots of money. They write to the court and say, I will pay this amount if you show me how I owe it. Just show me the bill and show me how I owe it, and I will pay it. Well, the court can't do that because the whole thing is a racket. The whole thing
Right.
is based on you believing that you owe something, and you pay it because you believe it. And this is why when you get a bank account, they will tell you your bank account is very safe. It's backed up by the full faith and credit of the United States government. And I said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me my government is operating like I do on faith and credit? That's what the United States is all about, is on faith and credit. Yeah, because your bank account is backed up by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. When you talk about faith and credit, well, first of all, we're not giving you money. We're giving you a number on a piece of paper. That's a credit. And the full faith is that you believe that it's actually money. So as long as you
Right. That's
believe
what I
it's actually money.
What is the faith? That's what I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, well, the state is a fictitious word, a fictitious subject. There is no state. It's an incredible story. Once you start, I think the best place on the web for people who want to do their own study is called USA versus US, or it could be backwards, US versus USA.info. The US is the United States Corporation versus, which is a small V and an S, versus USA. So go on the web to usvsusa.info. And there's a huge website that explains all of this, how it worked and where it started and who financed it and what the whole thing is all really about. It's an incredible education. It's been sitting on the web for years. And that's what I do on my website. Jordan Maxwell Show is my website. There are other websites out on the web with my name because my name seems to draw people's attention. And so there are other people who want to make money off of me. And so they use my name and say it's my website when in point of fact, I know nothing about it. And so they are using my name to promote themselves. Well, if you see my name out on the web, there's only one website I have, and that's Jordan Maxwell Show. Don't forget the word show, SHOW. JordanMaxwellShow.com is my website. And don't email me and call me and ask, is Jordan Maxwell Show your real website? I just got through telling you. You see the man himself. You're listening to him as he speaks. And I'm telling you, Jordan Maxwell Show is my website. I will get 500 emails asking, I heard that you have a website. Was it Jordan Maxwell Show or Jordan Maxwell this or Jordan Maxwell that? And I'm saying Jordan Maxwell's show is my website. Go there.
By the
And
way, I found that website. It is usavsus.info. So it's
yeah,
USA first.
yeah,
And
okay.
I've dropped the link into our chat so that people can use that as a way to get there.
Yep. It's a very good one. As far as I'm concerned, it's massive. It's a big, big website explaining all the tricks of the trade, all the way they lie and trick you into believing this and believing that. It's really all right there. And all you got to do is do what I've done. Spend 60 years reading and studying. You'll figure it out.
So, Jordan, um, we normally go for 2 to 3 hours, and I would just like to get a gauge on how much time we have with you so that I can adjust accordingly because I have pages of notes and my audience is already starting to field lots of questions. So, we normally go until
And people on the panel have
that's
questions
right.
and want to show stuff with you while you're here.
That's right. And we want to get into the Hollywood and astrotheology aspect. So I just want to confirm that you're going to be with us long enough to cover the things that we hope to cover. Probably won't get to everything, but just want to gauge where you are. Are you good to go for another couple of hours?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
But I can go maybe for another hour,
Okay.
another couple of hours. No.
All right.
And the reason why is because I've already been up since early this morning. I'm very, very tired and I didn't sleep well. And so I don't think I'll be much of a guest after after another hour.
No worries. I would love to have you back.
Yeah, well, we can always do that. I can always come back.
Very good. So, what I would like to do, because my friend Influence here, Freedom, is here with us, and trust me when I say this, I have not met anyone online who is more knowledgeable on the field of astrotheology and how it actually works and how it actually plays out in the skies above our heads than this young lady right here. So, what I would like to do is turn our attention to the aspect of Hollywood and the astrotheology concept, and particularly how Hollywood uses actors. And I know that you've talked about this, the magic wand and the holly tree and the movie stars or stars. And this is exactly the field that Influence Freedom and I have been focusing on for quite some time. So, what I would like to do is turn our attention to the concept of Hollywood movies, and media using actors as actual representations of planets, stars, nebulas, constellations, the sun, moons, etc., etc. And my friend Influence has, I think, a 7 to 10 minute presentation that we would like to present to you. So, Influence, if you're ready, I think I might like to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, I know I just wanted to touch base on a few things like
I
Jordan,
wish you would. I'm fascinated with the subject. I would love to hear what you have to say.
okay, well, you like to, you have the understanding that the religions, the Abrahamic religions are based within the star system, right?
That's right. Yep.
So,
And incidentally, I also know that there was no Abraham, never existed. It's just a code word for the secret societies. Abraham never existed. There was no such a man named Abraham. But they attribute their astrotheology that they got from the ancient Egyptians and the Hindus, and they call it an Abrahamic religion. There was no Abraham.
That's right.
But then again, there was no Moses either.
It's isn't Abraham short for Brahma?
That's exactly what it is. It's a shortened for Brahma.
yeah,
And
so,
and the Brahmins had the Brahmin priesthood considered themselves to be so holy they don't want nothing to do with the rest of the people of India. The rest of the people of India are untouchables. You don't have nothing to do with them. They're all unwashed masses and goofballs. And there's only one true religion in India, and that's Brahma. And so Brahma is the Almighty God, and the Brahmin priests are the chosen of God. They are God's chosen people. And
Lem-
so we've heard that before, God's chosen people. And then you find out that no, it's all based on Abram. Abram changed his name to Abraham. And Abraham is take an A off of it, becomes Brahma. And then Abraham had in the Abrahamic religion in India, they have a connection. The Abrahamic priesthood has a connection to a goddess. The goddess in the Abrahamic religion was Saraswati. Saraswati was a goddess that the Abrahamic religion accepts as
And
a
and
goddess.
that's Abraham's wife was Sarah.
Saraswati. Sarah was
It-
Abraham's wife,
yep.
but it's not Sarah. It's Saraswati, and they had a river named after her, the Saraswati River. And so, yes, but the Abraham never existed. Moses never existed. There was no man named Moses. He never existed. And you go down the line of all the important religious leaders that come out of India and Egypt and out of the Bible, none of them ever existed. It's just a metaphor. The whole entire Bible, both Old and New Testament, is a metaphor. It's a symbolic
Yep.
story telling you
Yep.
symbolism.
So
If you
Jordan,
don't know, yeah.
so if you look down on your screen and if you take your mouse and hover over top of Influence Freedom's icon and click one time, and it should put a white box around her symbol, her icon, and that'll make her
Which
go
one is her? Oh, okay. Okay, I see it.
full screen for you. She is screen sharing right now.
Yep, yep.
She's using a
Well,
program known as Stellarium.
bef- before I get into, I just really want to show, which several people already in the audience have seen, but I also want to show something in relation to 9/11 that I hadn't missed before, and I'm actually a little disappointed in myself for that. So, but I wanted to ask one question, Jordan, while you were here. Is I am curious, what do you think about the concept of the constellation Cephas? So let me just put it in the time frame there, up in the highest of the north, that they decided to use for the father who sits on the throne in the highest up here, Cephas in the north, that they decided to use a fake Ethiopian king and queen to mark the highest of our Western mythology. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know. You're right. Uh, I'm not sure what to think about. I do know that there has been a conspiracy to build up on this earth a history that never existed. It's all a metaphysical history that has never existed, but it's a symbolic story. And I think that what we have in the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, I do not believe the Old Testament was written in the BC. I believe that all the so-called Old Testament of the Bible that the Gentiles call Old Testament, the Jews call the book of the law. I think it was probably written by the Knights Templar Masonic Order in the Vatican back in about the 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th century AD. I don't. I am totally convinced that there was no ancient Israel. There was no ancient King David, King Solomon. None of those people ever lived. It was a whole story that was dreamt up by a Masonic order called the Knights Templars, and they were the people who held up the Catholic Church and promoted it, and promoted the religion of the Roman religion called the Roman Catholic religion. And when you begin to see all the symbolism in the Roman Catholic Church for astrology and find out who wrote the Old Testament, and then when you hear people saying, and I've heard so many Christians say, isn't it wonderful that all of the prophecies that were in the Old Testament about the Messiah, where Jesus came and fulfilled all of those prophecies? Isn't that wonderful how Jesus came and fulfilled all the prophecies? And I say, no, not necessarily. If you got the same group of Knights Templar, brilliant Masonic order people writing the Old Testament, and when they were through, then they were told to write a New Testament. And they're the ones that wrote the Old, so they know how to write a New Testament that does fulfillment. And these people were a lot of things, but stupid wasn't one of them. They were brilliant. And they put together a world class religion that people have bought into for the past 2,000 years, and nobody seemed to question the veracity of the story. And then when you start looking at it as you are, then you begin seeing what I'm talking about. It's a symbolic story based on astrology.
Yeah, and it's the more you become very familiar with the stars and what the scripture is saying, and then how the Masons and the Zionists and Israel and everybody have laid out our cities and our structure of our system and our government. The Rome against the Jew story continuously seems to play out both in the scripture and to this very day. They
Yep.
make sure to use the stars themselves as the actual, not only the clock, in order for them to keep the time of the events, but they're also able to describe the events because the events themselves are the symbols of the stars, such as the Twin Towers or Notre Dame, which I can show that. And what will be coming in the future also. And they have methodically laid out these 88 constellations to very much all work in tandem together because it works both almost naturally, but it almost works hypnotically at the same time.
Yes, it
And
certainly
while
does.
yeah, and while we're being hypnotized by it, they're just getting the entire free structure of the illusionists are getting to use the clock of the stars and using it in combo with the scripture, which is easy to show. And that's one of the things I wanted to show. Um, this is the system. And then the Milky Way and the Ouroboros, the storyline follows the Milky Way around the four cardinal directions. As long as you have Cephas, the Father, on the throne in the highest of the north, and the Ophiuchus, the 13th tribe of Dan in the east, and the Orion, the fool, Jack John, as we were talking about, Rufus, that you were pointing
Right,
out,
right.
the Jack John over into the west, and then the cross with the centaur, the centurion, in the south, where the crucifixion will take place, and then he gets stabbed in the ribs by the centurion on the cross.
Yep.
So then we also have our fire of God, our altar of God at the feet of Ophiuchus. And this whole story just lays out. But let me just show, I guess I'll show one thing at least as far as the scripture really fast, just to verify what we're talking about. But then I just want to show you guys something that I seen on 9/11 that I had missed before. So if we just keep it simple, it already tells us that the fifth angel sounded and I saw a star fall from heaven. So we already know that we're dealing with the stars. And then we're told that as the scorpions have earth of the power. So as the fifth one does fall on 9/11, and by the way, Jordan, I am using Israel as the reference point rather than New York City, which I do both. But the
Hmm.
reason I use Israel is because it is my sincere, honest belief that Benjamin Netanyahu, Arnon Milchan, Robert Zemeckis, uh, Barack, not Hussein, but Barack, the gentleman that worked along Benjamin Netanyahu's side,
Yep.
I believe that they are all perpetrators of 9/11 and are part of our programming, including Richard Murdoch. Um, I believe that they are
Rupert.
the ones that help to Rupert, I mean, sorry. I believe they are the ones that help to program the mind for all of this out of the Hollywood studios of the intelligence agency. And This is definitely, in my opinion, run by Zionists, Jews who want to bring back the Moshiach, including people that also are not of any of that, but just enjoy the power in the games, and that they're master illusionists. And this is
Yep.
my belief. And so in the scripture, what they gave us, so the reason I'm going to use Israel is because since I believe that they're the ones that perpetrated, people from Israel are the ones that helped to perpetuate all this, and that we are fighting a big part of their wars for them. I use their skies. And what we end up with on that morning, Jordan, is we have the twins falling in the west. But here's another really interesting tidbit that I had missed before. They're always going on about the turtle. Well, the Native Americans were not using this star here, but they were using the Pentagon of Auriga. So it actually turns out that on that morning, it is the twins and the Pentagon shape, literally, and then marking the gateway of the west coming up is yet another pentagon shape with Ophiuchus is the main body. And at the same time, of course, we have our number 42, the secret to life and universe and everything, the fifth star being given the key, who is with the twins that morning. But we have Saturn down here with the bull as the financial markets were crashing. Now, since Arnon Milchan clearly pointed out in Fight Club that that's exactly what this was all about, was part of their financial equilibrium, as he put it, and he's a former Israeli spy who put this information out there, and I'm going to call it for what I see it, since I already know they're using the stars. Well, it tells us specifically in Revelations 9 the exact alignment that we're going to have the fifth angel sounded and the star falls from heaven. And there we have that. Then we have the scorpions that will have power over the earth. Whoops, I'm sorry. And as that occurs that morning, here comes the scorpions to have the power of the earth. Then it will tell us that,
And that's the scorpion rising there. So the
yes,
scorpions will
and
have power as they're rising because they're rising
yes,
over the horizon.
yes. And then it says, and they had the hair is the hair of the woman, and their teeth were the teeth of the lions. And the very center of our sky, of course, is the hair of the woman, Coama Berenices, with the teeth of the lions. But here's the other interesting tidbit that a lot of people don't know is that it tells us that it's also going to have Apollo, and that happens to be on 9/11, Revelations 9/11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in Greek tongue hath his name of Apollyon. All right. So here's where this matters in both skies of New York City and Jerusalem on 9/11. Mercury, just so people know, Mercury, the name of Mercury when the sun is rising. Just so you know, let me point out Mercury's elusive. It's not a planet. Even Copernicus supposedly never got to really document Mercury's transit in the 70 years of the observations. And we're going to have one this year on 11/11. Mercury will transit the sun, which will not again happen in North America until 2049. Mercury is the All-Father, the Odin, the Woden. Now, Mercury is also known as Apollo, as long as it's when it's the morning star. When it's the evening star, it is known as Hermes. Venus in the morning, if it's the morning star, is known as Phosphorus.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have 9/11 in Jerusalem, both the sun and the Apollo are over us for Israel. But for us, it's coming from the bottomless pit. Because if we go back the 7 hours, we have it coming up out of the bottomless pit right here. Okay. So it follows the actual scripture of Revelations 9:11. And that is, in fact, in the stars. So then if you have an Arnon Milchan type who is a spy, an admitted spy, who is giving us Medusa's touch. And let me just show you this really quick, Jordan. In Medusa's touch, most people don't understand what Medusa's touch actually is. But when it comes to the constellation Perseus, we know that Medusa is not an actual constellation, but we do know that Medusa is part of the narrative of Perseus, the story.
Mm-hmm.
So the star's Algul, or the demon head, which, by the way, is exactly the short term we give to our algorithmic language of our computer, is called Algul.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Algul. So when Arnon Milchan gives us the movie Medusa's Touch, when he shows us the plane flying into the towers, we are actually given the week of when it's going to happen. And the reason we would know that if we studied the stars is there's only 1 week out of the whole year that the September Perseids come from Medusa's head. And that is the week of September 11th on 9/5 through 9/14. So in the scene just before the plane hits the tower, the woman says to the man, "I'll see you at 11." Now that's a time, they're given a time.
That's in the
However,
movie, right?
yes, it's directly in the scene right before the plane hits the tower. What it is that she says, "I'll see you at 11." But if we know that this is Medusa's touch, we also know that this is September.
Yep.
So then we have the same guy give us the Fight Club, where he literally tells us that they're going to drive the vans full of explosives into the towers, into the buildings, and they've already pre-planted the explosives down in all of the basements, and that they're going to watch the collapse of the financial district in order to have their equilibrium, and that they will not hurt their own, which would explain everybody getting the warnings not to show up that morning. And it would also explain why urban movers and these vans were caught with the explosives in them.
You're right.
And
Mm-hmm.
and he lays it out exactly how they're going to do it in the film, and so does Rupert Murdoch in Lost Wolf. Now, Johnny Gatt, anybody who's hearing what I'm saying that knows that this is all going back to the video by Johnny Gatt, that guy has his finger on the pulse of understanding that they are spelling out literally exactly what they're gonna do. But then the question becomes, how does that work? Well, that works by having the script of the movie stars, so that they mark the alignments in the sky when events will happen. And that'll be something that you can see my videos on, whether it's Madonna's, Like a Virgin video, whether it's Face Off movie, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's Hudson Hawk,
Or the
these
or the brand new Will Smith movie called Gemini
Gemini.
Man,
Yeah.
where he fights himself. Will Smith plays two characters, so we have the twins, and the movie itself is called Gemini Man. It's like right in your face.
So now if we go over, say, to Revelations 10, and we see another one, I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, and a rainbow upon his head, and his face were as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. Okay, so we know that Ophicus's feet are the pillars of fire. Let me bring him up in the east here. Okay, so Ara is the altar of God, and that sits down by where the feet of Ophicus would be. And then we're told that, hold on. Okay, he'll have the little book, and in some of the scripture, he's either holding the serpent, the open scroll, the little book, but he's holding his open something, and it depends on whoever's writing their myth, how they're going to put it. Wait, is this the one I really wanted to do? Hold on, this isn't it. This isn't it. Hold on. Okay. The reed unto the rod, we know that's Boot says. He's got the rod. He's gonna rule all nations with it. My eyes aren't going as quick as they should be. Hold on. You know what? I don't even need to find it. I know that you're gonna know the scripture that I'm talking about, Jordan, quite honestly. In the Revelations, when it says, and it was a leopard with the feet of the bear and the mouth of the lions.
Yep.
The beast. Okay. So here we have our lynx, which is a leopard, and we have the feet of the bear and the mouth of the lions. We've already shown the hair of the woman with the mouth of the lions. We've already shown the scorpion rising as the fifth angel, this trumpet sounded. Then we also are told in Revelations 120 that the seven stars are the seven angels. So we already know that the stars are the angels, right?
That's
Then,
right.
then we have our dog star, our the one star, of course, with our Holy Ghost, our ghost, summer, dawn, Orion, Fool, Jack, John, everything else. We can just keep going on about Orion. But it is the one who comes on the cross. It isn't like other planets don't come across this line and can also be crucified upon the cross and then stabbed by the centurion in the ribs, right?
Hmm.
And then rises again. And then here's the other cross, and then goes to the holy highest of the Father. And it's just very interesting, though. Again, I just want to point out one other thing before I'll shut up and see if there's anything you want to chime in with. Jordan, when they did Notre Dame, the
The
key,
fire, when they
yeah,
burned the cathedral.
when they burnt the fire, when they burnt the spire of Notre Dame. Now, we're all told to follow Saturn, the Saturnalia worship. But here's what I notice. A lot of this is going to Jupiter because Jupiter was with the twins the morning of 9/11. It is Jupiter that Notre Dame is built upon the Roman Gallo temple of Jupiter. It is the Temple Mount that is built upon a Jupiter temple. I do kind of feel like we're being sent a little bit on a wild goose chase when we get sent towards the Saturn direction. It's not that Saturn isn't important, but the king of the kings is Jupiter. That is the Jesus. That is the one of the main Christ, like what you were saying, that the Jews do not follow, they're a henotheists, right? Because they
Hmm.
picked a god, as you were saying before. Okay, so we know that Jupiter is of the utmost importance, but you know that the rose window of Notre Dame is of importance to this spire. But the spire that they like, and the wand that they like, is the unicorn or the Monocero spire that happens to belong to where the Rose Nebula is, to see through the rose window. Now, that's connected to the spire. So it's very interesting that Notre Dame was connected to the spire. And here's another really interesting, wild thing. On the date of the event on 2019, April 15th, yet again, Titanic, Boston bombing, Notre Dame, tax day. Okay. So if we go over to that and we put back our horizon line and we go to what the sky looked like in France as they were taking down their spire, this is what their alignment was. Whoops, hold on. We need you in the south. Okay. Directly in the center of their sky in the south was the rose window and the spire. And the problem with this, Jordan, is that they put so much of this information in films and stuff that a lot of people were picking up on the unicorn code. And I went directly to my friend and I told him they're gonna take down a spire in Paris when the unicorn is overhead. And that's exactly what happened, because that's how, once you start to understand that this is what's going on. So we, just like 9/11, we had the twins, the Pentagon, the bull, the markets. We had Jupiter with it. We had Saturn with it. It was all together hanging out in the sky, falling into the horizon in Israel. And we were programmed by them.
She called it, Jordan.
Yep. I follow it, and it makes sense. I see the consistency of the symbolism. It's fascinating. What I am talking about, when I talk about astrotheology, is not as deep as this. This is a very heady and deep conversation about astrotheology. This is very interesting and very important to understand the depth of how this stuff works. I just tried to explain the bottom line being the worship of the sun, and in that configuration that we were looking at, you saw that krator, the chalice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's the gold, and that's the
Holy
Holy Grail. The
Yeah.
Holy Grail is the chalice. And this is why Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, they were looking for the Holy Grail,
Bring it up
the
again,
cup of
influence.
Christ.
Yeah, the Holy Grail too,
Share
when they
share
had
again, influence.
yeah, I'm opening up Stellarium and okay, but
So
I just wanna point out too that on, the Night of the Harvest Festival was when the sun entered into the Holy Grail and the blood of a Christ, not the, but a Christ figure entered into the, Holy Grail. Hold on, let me bring it up. Can you see there?
hold s-
Yes, I
hold s-
can.
hold
Yeah.
still. Back out just a little bit.
Okay. So if we go to 10/1/2017, which every year this is what's going on. As soon as the sun gets into this part of Virgo where it becomes her shawl,
Hmm.
and then
And then the moon is at her feet.
yeah, this year on 10/1, the moon was actually on her feet and the blood of a Christ was filling the grail. Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
So back out just a little bit, influence. So Jordan, this probably won't surprise you, but literally every story that you've ever heard in your entire life, from Alice in Wonderland to the Christ story, is told right here in the stars, in the zodiacal signs, with all the constellations. And if we look at Virgo, and then you follow just down to the right, we have the sexton. So, and then if you follow a line through Virgo to the sexton, it's almost directly pointing to the bow of the ship, which is Argos, the constellation Argos. Now,
Hmm.
I'm sure you remember the old movie Jason and the Argonauts.
That's right. Hmm.
So, this Virgo in Alice in Wonderland, Alice is Virgo. She looks through the sexton, which is the looking glass. Her father was a shipping magnate, and that's where she was wealthy from her father's shipping business. And Alice follows the rabbit down the rabbit hole. So if you draw a straight line through Virgo, through the sexton, you come across um, the
Lipas.
the dog star and Lepus the rabbit, and she follows the rabbit down the rabbit hole, which dips below the horizon. Literally everything from Puff the Magic Dragon to Jason and the Argonauts to the Christ myth, every story you've ever heard until today, Hollywood movies, including the brand new Brand spanking shiny new movie from Will Smith where he plays two characters, he plays two roles, he plays himself twice, so he's the twins, and so that's Gemini, and literally the name of the movie is Gemini Man. So it's like
So,
it's as in your face as can be.
yeah, let me just show you 2 more quick things. Okay, so, I was watching Adam Green, and he was talking about he was playing some other gentleman's video who's very concerned about Seattle coming an event coming up in Seattle, and a lot of people are picking up on a Seattle code, but one of the things he kept saying was "turtle, turtle, turtle," and I'm like, "Well, one thing I know is that when you see a repeated thing, pattern with these people, you need to put it in relation to a constellation such as the unicorn is Monoceros." So I put
Hmm.
in the turtle, and that's when I found out that several of the Native American tribes that use the turtle are actually using the constellation Auriga in its pentagon form. So they're using the pentagon form of the East. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this is uh, the Pentagon sitting here, and they were all together on 9/11 getting destroyed. So here was what was really interesting when I decided to go look up Seattle, Washington, is here's their story. Our first European contact in 1608 was John Smith and William Claiborne, and our first contact with the colonist occurred in 1634 upon the arrival of the Ark and Dove.
Hmm.
Because the Ark, as we know, the Noah's Ark and Dove are Argo and Columba. And this is why this is so methodical, the way they laid out these constellations. And they made sure to do it in relationship even to the natural order of things. You know, because the thing that is leading out in the ocean that can go along with the boats are the birds, besides the animals underneath, of course, but
Hmm.
in the water, but it is the birds. So whether we have Noah's Ark, where he sends forth the dove and the raven Corvus, and he's got the 3 sons and the father clothed. Um, I just thought it was really interesting that that was the name of the boat that arrived in Seattle, was the Ark and the Dove. So
Yep.
just to show, you really quick, one of the things I really like to do, Jordan, is this, and I'll just show you, the movie, for instance, Face Off. So, I
What
don't
was
want
the name of the movie?
Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, so in Face Off, if we go to the characters, we have Sean Archer, okay? Then we have Castor Troy and Pollux Troy. So, we know then that we have, hold on, I gotta get my thing back here to normal. Uh I just like putting it, we'll put it anywhere here, it doesn't, well, no, we'll put it to, 9/11. Okay. Alright, so when we go to, we know that Gemini is Castor and Pollux, right?
Hmm.
Right, so 2 of our characters' names are already Castor and Pollux, okay, so that's pretty easy. Then our other character is called Archer, okay, that's pretty easy. Then our other characters' names are called Eve and Leo, okay?
Yep.
And and then it tells us they're in a face-off because Archer is the one that's fighting with, Castor and Pollux, and the one brother, Nicolas Cage, is having the face-off with Archer, but and they're both, dealing with Eve in the head games that Archer is playing with, Castor and Pollux, and they're using Eve in the middle of it all, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, this is just another classic example of how they set up the characters to give an alignment in the story arc that not only can give a precise time for anything else they're conveying in the film, but it hypnotizes us while we're watching the film because we're constantly being given the same narratives and the same symbols over and over again, whether we recognize it or not. These people who are illusionists, who study psychology and neurology and everything else, know that our brains are taking this in, and so they get to have all sorts of fun while the masses get hypnotized.
No doubt
Jordan,
about it. Yep.
Jordan, you have inspired a whole generation. I wanted to make sure that you understood this. You have inspired an entire generation. Just leave that on screen, influence. Just leave it there. You have inspired an entire generation of researchers who have taken your mantle and we have run with it, and we are discovering things above, far above and beyond the stuff that you have been putting forward. And it's because of you that people like us are looking into these things. I remember you gave an interview where you talked about scripture, where in the scripture it talks about going back to the old ways.
That's
And
right.
and I found those scriptures. I found them today. And there are a couple of scriptures. And there and every time they refer to the old ways as evil. So it seems that what this is what they don't want us to look at. So in the Bible, it talks about going back, and I've got them on my on. I've got a tab open right now. I could read it to you, where it talks about how you're not supposed to go back to the old ways, the evil ways, you evil heathen pagans. And this is the stuff that people used to know about in ancient times. And this is the stuff that people have been steered away from. If you ask any, like a strong Bible fundamentalist, and they will, when it comes to paganism or astrology, those things are evil to those people. And they won't even look at it. They won't listen to you. They won't look at it. And
That's right.
they've been trained to steer away from it. And this is exactly what is happening. The as above, so below motif has played out for thousands of years, and you,
I
sir,
know.
and
You're
you,
right.
and you have been a stepping stone. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, and you are the giant. You are one of the giants that we stand upon. So I just want you to know before the end of your days, you need to know that you have made a difference in the world, and we have picked up your mantle, and we are discovering things that are just jaw-dropping.
I am totally, I totally appreciate your saying that, because I feel, because of my age and because of my lifestyle, where I don't live like other people, I live in one room by myself with nothing. I have nothing, own nothing, I got nothing. But I have had so many strange experiences as a teacher. And I appreciate, knowing that you feel that way, because I so often now, especially is it easier for me now to look back on my life and think, I don't know what I've done. I don't know if anybody's actually hearing me. Maybe I've wasted my whole life
No, sir.
trying to educate people to the symbolism of the world we live in. But I've tried to do it the best I could, to show people that no, the reality is not the the map is not the place. It's just a map to a place. The map is not the place. So what you're seeing with your eyes is not it. What you're not seeing, that's where the real story is. What you're not seeing.
I'm
And
gonna put this down so people can see Jordan talk.
Go ahead.
yeah. And so what are we doing now at this moment?
We're applauding you for changing the world.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Now, keep in mind something that maybe you don't know. The very word spelled W-A-Y, way, was a word that has been used for thousands of years for the zodiac. The zodiac was called the way. And since it's been around for a long time, the Bible says, go back to the old way. And Jesus
Oh,
said, I am the way and the truth and the light. And no
oh,
man comes to the Father except through me. So you're not going through to God, and it says you're not going to God unless you go through the way. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the light. No man comes to the Father unless he comes through me. And Christians will say, oh, see, there it is. You have to go through Jesus. No, I am the way. The way is the zodiac, and that's why the zodiac was called the way.
You know,
And,
to
if,
this very
and
day, if you're a pilot, there are things known as waypoints.
precisely, and that's why, um, we hear terms like Jesus said, "I am the way and the truth and the light. I am the way." And this is what yeah, we only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to get this out.
Okay.
That Jesus tells us that there is something called, we call it the Father's Prayer, the Our Father prayer, and was called the Lord's Prayer. No, it's not the Lord's Prayer. Jesus is said to be the Lord, and he didn't pray this. Jesus said, you pray it. When you pray, not me, but when you pray is say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let your kingdom come and let your will be done on earth
As it
as
is
it
in
is in
heaven.
heaven. Okay? Because the word, let your kingdom, because we humans put all the other life forms on the earth into categories. We say fish are in schools,
Yep.
cattle are in herds, bees are in swarms, uh, geese are in flocks. So we put certain life forms on the earth into particular family lines. And so, what is it that is on the earth? The living creatures that are on the earth are in a kingdom.
The animal kingdom.
That's right, the animal kingdom. And where do you find animals? You find them in a zoo, because the study of animals goes back to the most ancient Greek word for animals, which was zodiological. Zoo. That's where you find animals is in a zoo, because the study of animals was called zoology, the study of animals. And so therefore the kingdom is the kingdom of the zoo, the zodiac,
It's the
the
kingdom of
kingdom of the
heaven.
zodiac, the symbol of the animals on the planet, on the ecliptic.
And that's the
So that
kingdom of heaven.
that's right. And that's why God's kingdom is in heaven. And so you're saying, Almighty God, let your kingdom come. Let your zodiological kingdom of animals, the animal kingdom, come, and let your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. And I say, well, that's very nice of you to ask, to show God that you're in complete compliance, and you want his kingdom to come and his will to be done on the earth as it is in heaven. But I got news for you. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. Because when Aquarius comes, it will come, and there ain't nothing you're going to do about it. I don't care who you are on the earth. I don't care how big you are in the Illuminati. There's nothing you're going to do to stop the stars. You
Mm.
can't touch them. And so you, as a Christian, we're to say to God, let your kingdom come. What kingdom? The animal kingdom. Well, animals are in zoos. That's right. It's called a zodiac, a zoo. Zodiac, which is a kingdom of animals. Let your kingdom come and let your will be done on the earth. Well, it's going to come. When Pisces was going to come on the earth, it sure as hell did change the whole world. And now we're looking at the coming of Aquarius, and now the whole superstructure of Western religion is falling apart and crumbling and falling apart. Why? Because Aquarius is not here yet, but it's real close.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
here.
So
it's
this
close.
is the
It's here
this
now.
No, no, it's not. The sun isn't rising with Aquarius yet on the vernal equinox.
no, it's not rising yet. And this is the dawning of the age of
Right.
Aquarius.
Yeah.
In other words, it's just dawn. It's just now light. You don't see the sun, but you can see the light coming up. So you know it must be getting close.
Well, wasn't the Mayan calendar, when it ended on December 21st, 2012, which was
No,
the
no, because December 21st has nothing to do with the signs of the ages in that way, because that's based on the spring equinox and when the sun rises.
okay. Well, I do know that when the Mayan calendar ended on December 21st, 2012, that there was an alignment between the Earth, the Sun, and the center of our Milky Way. That did happen.
Well, the Golden Gate. You're right. The
Okay.
Golden.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
all
the
right. Well, then.
bomb man, the Batman. Yeah.
Okay.
And your father, back in the ancient Persian world, in the Persian world, your father was called Pater, Patar. And so the Vatican says, no, our first pope was Peter, not Peter, Pater. And then in the ancient Middle East, your father was called Pitter, Piter. We've heard the term Pitter Patter. Pitter and Pater are the words for your father. He was a holy father, and your father is the holy father. He opens the door to life for you, was your father. That's why the Pope is called the Holy Father. He opens the door for the world to come in and see all the mysteries of the Babylonian, Sumerian mysteries of astrology. God's kingdom, the light of the world.
And in
And
Latin
so,
and Italian, they call him Padre.
precisely. And so, therefore, if you have Peter, which is your father, and the Jew, the word Jew used to be called in the Middle Ages. You spell the Jew I-U. I's and J's can be interchangeable. I's and J's are interchangeable.
Yep.
You spell the word Jew I-U. Later, it will spell I-O-U. Go back to the Oxford Dictionary of the English Language, you'll see the word Jew. Today we spell it Jew. No, it was IOU or IU. And so therefore the Jews were the ones who were promoting the worship of Pater, the Holy Father. They're the ones that gave us the idea of the Holy Father. So it's the Holy Father of the IUs. It's the IU Pater. But I's and J's are interchangeable. So it becomes IU Pater becomes JU Pater or Jupiter.
Right.
Jupiter is the father god of the Jews. But today the Jews worship the planet Saturn. So they have moved from Jupiter because the Romans said Jupiter was the savior of the world. And Jupiter is our savior because anything that comes into our little Mickey Mouse solar system that could hit us and cause us great pain is sucked into Jupiter, the profound
King of Kings.
gravitational force. And even the sun is pulled by Jupiter. Jupiter pulls the sun toward it. Wherever Jupiter is, the sun moves 3 degrees toward it. If the Jupiter's over here, the sun will move that way. The sun is, I mean, Jupiter is so strong it sucks and pulls the sun toward it. Well, if Jupiter is so strong as to pull the sun, you know it's going to be big enough to pull any meteor that might hit the Earth or any comet that might hit the Earth. We're talking about all the comets that are going to hit the Earth. There's going to be a destruction of the whole world. Jupiter, the Romans said, was our savior. Jupiter, the god
Wow.
of the Jews.
Wow.
And so Jupiter is our savior because anything that will come into our solar system to destroy us and to hit us will immediately be sucked into Jupiter. And we saw that happen a few years back when that
Yeah.
comet,
In Russia, right?
right?
Or
And
no, you mean the one that hit Jupiter really hard, and we got
The
to see the
Shoemaker Levy.
Yeah.
That
and
was
we got to see
that was
Jupiter getting the hell beat out of it.
that was
But Jupiter
Shoemaker
is big
Levy.
enough it didn't bother Jupiter. It would have bothered us,
Yeah.
but it didn't bother Jupiter. Jupiter just sucks anything into it and it's gone. It doesn't care how big a thing is.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
why are they obsessed with destroying and making sure to use Jupiter like they did on 9/11, and like them doing Notre Dame, it being built on a Roman gallows, or Jupiter temple, and the Temple Mount being built on a Jupiter temple? what is their deal with wanting to go after all this Jupiter stuff with their Saturn stuff?
Well, it's just that they have followed. See, we have been told that the Jews were the first monotheistic people, meaning mono, meaning one, and
Right.
theistic God, one God. And the Jews were the original worshipers of one God, to which anybody who can read and has ever gone to a library or gone to school knows is absolutely ludicrous on the face of it. The Jews have never been monotheistic. They're not monotheistic today, and they ain't never going to be monotheistic.
Right.
Pharaoh Akhenaten was monotheistic, and the Jews were not mono. They were henotheistic, spelled Heno. Henotheistic means you pick one God from a group. And so if you have 14 gods here, you pick one and you say, I like that God and I'll follow him. And he says, okay, I'll be your God and I will be there for you and you be there for me. So therefore you are now the worshiper of one God. Yeah, but there's 14 others there, airhead, you didn't look at. So what you're not seeing is you think there's only one God in the whole universe, and the Jews love him, and the Jews were his God's chosen people. No, the Jews chose one. They chose one particular God, Jupiter, and he was the God of all the gods. And now today they have chosen the planet Saturn. Saturn is now today the god of the Jews. And the Jews, and Saturn was called El. And therefore the Jews go to worship in the Temp El. Temp El is the house of El. El was a Phoenician Canaanite word for the planet Saturn. And Saturn was referred to by the Phoenician Canaanites as, what was it? What is it? My mind's going. My mind's going because I'm getting tired.
Elohim, or that's the plural.
No, Sabbath.
Elohim.
The Phoenician Canaanites called the planet Saturn Shabbath. Shabbath. Shabbath was the name for the planet Saturn. And still today, the Jews still worship Shabbath, and they call that day the Sabbath, not Shabbath,
That's
but Sabbath.
Saturday.
And so
And the Sabbath is Saturday, and Saturday is the day of Saturn.
That's exactly right. It's called Saturn's Day. And that's why the Jews still today have their holy days after sundown. After 6 o'clock is a holy day for Jews, after sundown. Why? Because that's when the moon comes out. They're going back to their own moon worshiping days under Moses. Moses was a moon deity. There was no man named Moses. There was a moon deity called Moses.
Right.
And he led the people of Egypt into the worship of the moon. And his name was Moses. It's an incredible story about where all of this stuff has come from. It all goes back to astrology. It all goes back to the stars. That's why you ask a little 7-year-old Christian child, where do you believe in God? Yes, they don't know what God means, but nobody. That's all right.
Heaven?
The adults.
And they point up.
Where's heaven? They'll point up there, and God's in heaven. Yeah, well, you can bet on it. There's something out there. And do you believe in angels? Yeah, well, where are the angels? They're out there in heaven with God.
Yeah, the angles of light.
Yeah.
The Earth, my concern is that when they do all of the star-based religion, they took a lot of people away from the earth-based religions. And that was something that they feel that is tangible. But if you have the astronomers and the illusionists who focus on the sky and start making these mythologies with all the dots in the sky, it gives them a whole other realm of language to talk in that the earth-based religion might not be into. I'm not saying that they weren't, because they still looked at the stars.
Yeah,
However, it seems, at least in the narrative that we've been given, it does seem that the earth-based religions were kind of almost hijacked by the star-based religions.
Well, there were different cults in the ancient world. The solar cult, worshippers of the sun. Stellar cults, worshippers of the stars. And the sun worshippers did not worship the sun. Sun worship was not worship of the sun. The ancient people who venerated the sun, we call the sun worshippers. They said no, they didn't venerate the sun as God, but they said the sun for us on the earth displays all the qualities that we would expect God to have. We would think that God would be open and warm and taking care of everyone and feeding everyone, and he would enlighten the world. Well, that's what the sun does. And if he dies, he will come back to because he can't die because he's God. So if he does die, he will come back. That's right, because every night he dies, and the next morning at 5:30 he comes back. So he is your risen Savior, and his name was Horus, and he comes up on the Horus rising because he's God's rising on the
And it's
horizon.
an anagram of hours.
Say it again.
Horus is an anagram of hours.
So I'm
If you
just saying
just rearrange the letters of Horus, it spells hours.
You know, one of the things I wanted to mention before we close out, and I don't know how much time you have to hang out with us, and I don't know how much strength or energy you have left in you, but before we get
not
done
much.
before we get done tonight, I did want to cover the concept of the deacons. Since we're talking about constellations,
The
deacons are
stars in between the constellation are called decans.
Yeah, the
deacons.
3 between.
Yeah, yeah. So every single constellation
Has
has
stars that divide them, and so
has
those stars that divide the constellation are called decans.
and
And if you're in the church, you're worshiping God's Son, the light of the world, our risen Savior.
and in the
Of course, the
church
Son is
and in
then
the
you are a deacon.
and in the church you're a deacon. That's correct, and that's
Right,
based on the Latin word based on deca, and in the constellations that each deacon represents 10 degrees of arc. So there's
right.
10
And then when
degrees of
you
arc, and a deca is 10 in Latin.
right, and then when you add the 1 plus 2 plus 3 and you go through all of the constellations and the decans, you have 666. It
Yeah,
totals 666 when you go through them all and you do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5.
Which is the same as a roulette wheel, 1 to 36. If you add 1 to 36, you get 666.
Yep, that's true.
and if you look at the foundation of the Washington Monument, the foundation is 111 feet below the surface.
And 555 above ground.
Exactly right. 555 above ground and 111 below, so it comes out to 666.
And if I'm not mistaken, the what is it? Is it the sun, or it's the? I think it's the sun that's traveling 666,000 miles an hour through our around our galaxy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, our sun is in motion at 666,000 miles an hour. I think.
I think it also comes from the makeup of the human body is 6 chromosomes and 6 this and 6 that,
Oh,
and the atom.
That's the carbon atom.
Yeah, carbon atom
There's
is
six protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons.
right, 666.
I Before you go, Jordan, I was wondering if I could ask one quick question. I don't know if you've heard about the theory that Saturn used to be our sun, and that the sun we have now was an interloper.
You're talking about Saturn being our sun in the ancient world?
Yes, and
I'm the
in
one
in the
that started.
northern
Yeah,
position.
I went.
Okay,
Let
I
him.
was invited to speak and to host a conference for David. What's his name?
Politis? No,
Who?
No,
no, not David Icke.
No,
not
the
Will.
guy who came up with the book, The Saturn Myth,
Right.
and
I'm
today
trying to.
it's called Thunderbolt.
Right, the
Oh,
Thunderbolts Project.
I hosted a conference.
David Talbot.
David
Talbot.
Talbot.
That's
Talbot.
it.
David and I were good friends. I gave him a huge, large sum of money so he could put on a
Really?
conference up in Port. I gave him, I think it was $56,000 back when he was putting on that big conference up in Portland, Oregon. And I was talking with him. He called and asked if I would come up and host the conference for him. And I said, David, I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm not an astronomer. He said, I know, but we want you to come up here and host the conference, which I did. And he said, and then I got to talking to him. He said, well, we're not sure we're going to even have the conference because we're running out of money. I said, how much do you need? He said, at least 55,000. And I said, okay, come down and visit me in San Diego. Fly down tomorrow. As soon as you can, I'll get you a check for 56,000, which I did because I was running a company called the Truth Seeker Company, and I was the ideologue. And so I had a deal with the lawyers for the Truth Seeker Company. The lawyers let me run the company as the ideologue for like 3.5 years. Not only was I on the board as the religion editor, but I actually was running the company for 3.5 years. And so running the company means I have access to the purse strings. I didn't have a dime. I don't have anything. But my name and my work was enough to buy me into running the company called Truth Seeker. And so I had the attorneys for the foundation. At that time, we had over 24.5 million in the bank, and we could spend the interest, but not the principal. So I spent the interest like it was going out of style. And so I told David Talbot, come down and I'll give you the money. Whatever it is you need, I'll go with you to the bank and they'll write you out a cashier's check, which we did. And so I hosted that conference for David Talbot and the Saturn myth.
Okay. I was wondering if you've ever heard of the website SaturnDeathCult.com.
I'm the one that's made that famous. I've been talking about for 40
Ah,
years.
okay. Okay. Well, in that case, we're all
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time on that site. And one thing that really struck me was, there was a section about what they do to children.
Mhm.
And the reason I have found this fascinating is because when I was very young, I was taken to some satanic rituals. And at the last one I was taken to, I was ritually sexually abused. I was abused by the man who took me there. But at the very last one, I was about 5 years old, and I had developed a friendship with this girl that was, going to these rituals with me. And they called her upstairs while we were all getting dressed in these outfits with masks and everything. And they wound up sacrificing her on the altar. And I think I would have still been involved in that, except for the fact that the guy told me, don't tell your mother, don't tell anybody. But as soon as I got home, I was just devastated because they had told me that my friend was dead. And I ran to her and told her all about what had gone on. And this man said that I'd had a bad nightmare. And we had a big scene with me insisting it was real and everybody telling me it was just a nightmare. And from that point on, my mother wouldn't let me go over to that house. It was my cousin's house, and the man had married my mother's sister, but I will not call him uncle because he's no relation to me. At any rate, she wouldn't let me go over there anymore, and that pretty much ended what was going on in that respect.
Well, she made a great decision.
Yes, indeed. So, I know these things happen. And that's why, when I started reading that, it's like, oh my gosh, I've lived this.
I know, you're right.
So I appreciate that you have mentioned that you know that particular site. I dropped the link a while ago.
Well, not only do I know the site, I was actually on the board of directors.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and he called me and said, we'd like to have you come up and host the conference. Well, you don't get to host a conference like that, just because you heard something about it. No, I knew David Talbot for a long time, and I've told him a lot of stuff about Saturn, and he knew I was on radio and doing what I was doing, and he knew I was working for a company that was a truth seeker company. It had almost $25 million, and he knew that, so he called and asked me if I would come up and be the host of the show, which I did. I went up there and I was the host for 5 days. It was a big conference, and I was the keynote speaker. And I introduced all the other speakers. So I know that company well. I mean, I was a host of the show.
Wow, I had no idea you were involved with the Thunderbolts project.
Oh, yeah. I've been involved with him for many years. I gave him a lot of
Wow.
money. I
Wow.
gave him a large check of $56,000 to start with. And Zachariah Sitchin, I gave him a large check too. And to sign a contract for me. I got Zachariah Sitchin to sign a contract for me, and we were in business together.
I wanted to ask you if you have a little bit more time, just a few minutes. Um, there's a couple of questions in the chat that I would like to ask, and I am curious what particular business you said that you had given Zachariah Sitchin like $16,000. I remember you
Yep, that's
mentioning
right.
that, and I'm just curious what specifically what business were you talking about?
I wanted to be a partner with him to publish his books and to promote him on television and radio and be his agent. But that particular piece of business I gave him money for was just to show good faith. He asked me, what are you giving me this for? I said, just to show good faith that I'm not lying to you. I want to be your partner. I want to help you. And so I gave him a cashier's check for $16,000, and just to show good faith because I had the money. And
Well,
so,
just to show good faith to my audience members, many people are asking about your Freemason connection. So I have to ask you, Jordan, do you mind, would you answer to the question of what is your connection to Freemasonry?
Freemasonry, I was a very, very, very close and dear friend with Manly Palmer Hall. Manly P. Hall and I were very close friends, and he was a very high degree. I think he was a 33rd degree.
Was he an
I think
honorary member or was he a
yes, an
was
honorary.
he a full on member?
No, honorary. He was an honorary member. But Christians like to say that the Freemasons are evil and devil worshippers. Well, I met and I was very close friends with two very high degree Masons, and they were very kind and courteous and always showed respect for me and what I was doing. And they did what they could to help me and to open doors for me so I could do my work. And I could tell you some really interesting things off the air that I would not want to talk about in public that some Freemasons have done for me that you would not believe. So I don't consider the Freemasons to be evil at all. I consider them to be what they are. It's a group of men that come together to become friends with each other and to help each other. That's all I see them doing because they're not involved in all the dark stuff that we're told they are. There may be, yes, they are very well, might be some really extremely evil people in Freemasonry at the top, but they're not telling the guys on the street, the regular Masons. They're not telling them what's going on. I
Right.
know what's going on.
Well, yeah,
So I know.
I,
I
I wondered if there wasn't some sort of an infiltration that had happened.
yeah, and so people want to call me names, and I've had all kinds of belligerency and people saying things about me which they can't prove, they don't know, and they say that I was working for the government. I've been a New World Order promoter. I'm a new ager, whatever that's supposed to mean. And all these things that they call me so that they can destroy my reputation, my name, and be done with my work forever. But my feeling is God brought me here. I came from the divine. The government did not build me. I came out of my mother. And that implies that there was a spirit of life in the universe that allowed me to be born. But I have always understood I did not come into this world because I happened by chance to have been born. No, I've always felt, even as a child, I came into this world for a reason. Unlike most people who come in here to drink beer and watch the TV and ball games, I am not interested in ball games, having a beautiful home, fancy cars, great job, living high. I did not come in to do that. I came in to be a teacher. And if you go back into history and find out what happened to the Nikola Teslas and the Royal Wrights and the people who gave their life to light the world and to bring intelligence into the world, they all suffered terrible fates.
I
And
know that.
so,
I know that feeling. I don't know if you're familiar with my work, but I am working to bring forth a society where psychopaths cannot be promoted to power over others.
oh God,
Yeah,
talk about psychopaths. I could write you a book on
oh,
that.
I'm sure of it. You know, I've developed a blueprint. I put out videos on a fairly regular basis, and I'm hoping that at some point you might look into what I offer. Uh, you
Yeah,
know,
well, I have a website, and you can go on my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, and email me your link and email me anything you want me to know, and put your phone number in and your email and your website and your phone number. And I want to go through what you're doing and get back to you. I'll call you back and we'll talk later.
oh, well, that would be wonderful. Just so you know, I really don't have a phone. I am virtually destitute.
I am too. I live in one room. I
I,
live in this.
I did.
I said that if you do the kind of work that I've done, you will wake up one morning finding out that nobody has, I don't ask anything from anyone, and which is just as well because you're not getting anything from anyone. And so
Right.
I live in one room. I live in this little room, sleeping on the floor with nothing. Live in one room, and the only reason I have this room is because a dear friend of mine let me live here with him. He let me live with his family. And so I have a little room I live in by myself, and I have to do everything myself because I have no income. I have nothing. I own nothing. I got nothing. Why? Because I spent my entire life seeking wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And when you do that, you're going to wake up one morning and find yourself in a country where nobody gives a damn about the wisdom. Nobody cares anything about that. How much money have you made? So I understand. I devoted my life to finding
Okay.
wisdom and knowledge, only to discover that today I live homeless with nothing. I don't have a family. I have no money. I have nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty much describes my situation. Now, I did send a wavy guy on Skype, but you haven't responded yet.
So
So
yeah. So when we get done, when you get a minute, you can check your Skype and you can connect with Amy offline,
Y-
and
yeah,
you can connect with
And I
her.
also I connected with you already, Jordan, under my Skype account. You accepted the friendship request.
yeah.
Um,
It should be from Amaterasu
let
Solar.
let
Just
me ask you a question
clarify.
though, really quick. Out of curiosity, by any chance, do you happen to believe in reincarnation, Jordan?
Yes, I do. But I would say this. I think there is something to reincarnation, but I have a different take on it. I don't think I know for a fact that the phenomena which we call reincarnation, the ability of certain people to recall things from a long time ago And then we find out later on that they are absolutely correct. No doubt about it. They were absolutely correct in their observations and what they said happened 500 years ago. And they said they were there and they saw it. And then we find out later on in these archaeological digs that this is exactly what that person said happened, is exactly where he said it happened. So that phenomena we call uh, reincarnation, there is no doubt that it happens. Everybody knows it. All the universities know it. They have university classes on it. The fact that there are people who can tell you things that happened many hundreds of years ago and give it to you in detail, and then we find out one day that they're absolutely correct. That is already nailed down. We know that happens. Now, my point is that how do you explain it? I don't explain it. I don't believe. I mean, I have another idea about how they could do that. And so I'm saying when people say, well, he must have been there. I mean, he said this is that happened, and she said this happened, and we now know that was exactly what happened. So how would she know that if she wasn't there? I say, well, I've got a different interpretation. I can take the same identical facts that you are using, and I can come up with a totally separate and different interpretation. So I know that that reincarnation actually happens, but I don't think it's a person actually reincarnating.
Right.
I think
It's
there's something else going on here that we are not looking at.
like some other type of connection, but it's there.
That's right. Some other kind of connection that's absolutely there, but they weren't there themselves. They didn't come
So
back.
I was just wondering because, like, when talking about seeking knowledge and truth, when you sit back and you're looking around the world and what people are having to do to survive and what we're all being conditioned to do, um, I don't I don't know if somebody's really better off in the mansion than they are in the one room. There's almost a type of peace in knowing and feeling comfortable with the connection of the knowing. I just call it the knowing somehow. Um, Being connected, there's luxuries that are nice, but as long as you can still talk to people and you are comfortable and you can eat and stay warm and whatnot, there's a type of comfort in
Yes.
that
Yes.
knowing for some reason and that knowledge. And I talk to Rufus and others and I joke all the time, but I do feel like the universe and the whole of everything almost it communicates and jokes back with us to almost let us know it is okay.
It is okay because, and this is the way I think, at least I feel that I have done something to impact my fellow man while I was alive on this earth. I did something the best I could with nothing. I don't have a lot of money. I got zero, nothing. But I did do something, and I did do it enough to impact the world, and people know who I am. So I feel the way I look at it for myself is that I feel okay. I may not have made anything, and I may live like a pauper, but at least I feel like when I leave this world, I could go where Nikola Tesla went. I could go where Royal Rife went, and maybe my name will also be remembered when I leave here of what I tried to do was to wake people up to the truth, even though it was almost like trying to empty the Pacific with a cup. I did the best I could as one person by myself with nothing. When I had the whole world calling me names and people who wanted to destroy my reputation, destroy my work, I continued for 60 years to do what I do, and as talking to audiences and lecturing on arcane subjects and doing the best I can to wake people up. And now that I'm 80 years old, at least I did the best I could. And when I leave here, I hope my name will be like Nikola Tesla. I hope my name will be like Royal Rife, and other people who have given their whole life to doing something to help their fellow man, and they died as a pauper with nothing. Because I know that's what happens to people who are trying to do something for their fellow man, especially today's time. If you're doing something today in America to do something to help your fellow man, to cure him of disease, educate him, to help him in some way, you will go to prison and be mocked and laughed at by the people, because most people couldn't care less what's going on. All they want to do is enjoy their life and drink their beer and watch their television and watch sitcoms and all the rest of the crap and go along to get along. I don't go along to get along with anybody. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I want to do what I do, and that is to wake my fellow man up to what is actually happening on the earth. And so I feel that when I leave here, at least I can go on the other side. And if somebody asks me, I can say, well, I did the best I could. Go back and look at my record. For 60 years, I talked to the world and tried to do something to help my fellow man. So that's the best I can offer. I did the best I could.
I want to know if I could just ask one more question in
Hmm.
relationship to the UFO stuff. My concern is, one, I believe that it would be type of arrogance if I was to believe there was nothing else out in the universe but us. However, my other concern is that knowing that these people are master illusionists, they don't have any problem with doing things like making a Statue of Liberty look like it disappeared, and I don't believe that they would have any problem with technology to make something up here. And one of the things I was thinking about was, you were doing an interview and you were speaking about Steven Spielberg and the Men in Black apparitions, or people that just appeared when the gentleman went to ask a question. And I wonder if that could be even technology, like even that could be technology. Um, and I'm wondering if the whole alien thing isn't going to just be a massive con. And why I say that is because on 9/11, we had all these firefighters and all these witnesses who experienced the bottom of the towers blowing up. And what was really amazing was all the expert witnesses, meaning the ones that were part of going through the experience. None of them were called forward during the 9/11 Commission report. And
No,
what was really interesting was that it was just the one guy in the street, the Harley guy, that says, "Oh, it fell like a pancake." And they used that one guy and a NIST report. And that was all they had to use to say to the masses, this is the way it is. And they ignored all expert testimony. So one of my things is I have a concern that that's really all they have to do with an alien agenda. All they have to do is do what they've been doing on Fox News and stuff, going, okay, look at, here's the images, the videos are real. The Navy now says that they were real, real footage, at least, of whatever these UFOs are. Then they can say, oh, one of them landed in the Antarctic where we have no access. The people don't have access other than the officials. And then they say, oh, look it, there goes one of them walking into the UN now, which literally could just be a bogus character. And then they disappear. And then that's the end of it. And then the media runs with the narrative, and then the lawmakers all make it like it's real. And there's no real anything that even happened. That's how easy it is for an illusionist, and we're dealing with a group of illusionists to pull this off. And I don't think it takes that much to go with the alien agenda. And I was just wondering what your thought might be on that.
well, in Islam, the Quran says Allah is the best deceiver of all. He is the best deceiver. He can deceive anyone. And in the scriptures, the Bible says, God says, I create death, I create war, I create goodness, I create life, I create bad, I create darkness. So I do everything.
He,
Everything that happens, God says in the Bible, I did it all,
yep.
period. And then in the Quran, it says, Allah is the best deceiver. They don't mind saying their God is a deceiver, and yet they turn right around and believe all the crap. It's incredible.
Right. Thanks for letting me ask that question. That was just one I really wanted to ask.
I have one more question that
Okay.
I couldn't live with myself if I didn't run this by you. I know that you have spent some time with Santos Bonacci. I know that you have endorsed Santos Bonacci heavily. I know that you've spoken to him on his radio show. I know that you have endorsed him on other programs where you were interviewed.
But I find it difficult because I cannot endorse him on everything. I endorsed him when he was talking about astrotheology and going back into the ancient history of religion and the ancient world. I thought he was absolutely sensational. I loved it. But when he talks about the flat earth,
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
didn't I didn't
Yes.
follow that at all.
You
I
knew.
don't think there's
Well,
anything
that
to
was
it.
after he went to jail too, which was very interesting. He came out of jail and then all of a sudden pulled the whole flat earth thing and name calling all of his followers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
I mean, I still have the highest of respect for Santos because I realize he has a magnificent mind, a brilliant mind. And he's been my friend. He's taken up for me so many times and defended me in public. And so I love him. He's a dear friend. And so on that one particular subject of the flat earth, I told him I think we should be agreeable to disagree. I don't see it and I don't really believe it, but you do, and I respect that. And so you believe what you want. I respect that from you because I respect you. I don't care if you tell me you were worshiping Zippy the monkey. I don't care. I respect you. I respect you, and so whatever it is you believe and whatever it is you're saying, I respect it. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
Very
I'm not going to condemn you in public. I would never do that. I would
all
never
right.
condemn him in public.
All right. Very good. Thank you. You obviously knew exactly where I was going with that.
I've
So,
had other people question the
Well, yeah,
same
it
thing.
wouldn't be the first time you were asked, I would take it.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Well, I have not heard you answer that question, and I've listened to many, many of your interviews and lectures, and so
but you just said it.
I just wanted to make sure that I covered that. So, thanks for that.
Yeah, did
I
I ever tell you the story about my girlfriend?
Yes.
I did.
Yes, I've heard this
Okay.
story. You've told it to me. You've told it. I've heard it in many other interviews. The girlfriend's father, who
Yeah.
talked to you about building the deck, and he knew things about your past, and he told you you had something to do. I can assure you, Jordan, you have done it. I can assure you there is an entire generation of people that are following in your footsteps who have taken your mantle, and we are discovering things just like we tried to show you an hour ago with Influence Freedom's presentation. We are on the trail and we are doing the work, and there's a whole generation of people that you have inspired, and you have done your work, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. I thank you. I thank you for acknowledging it. So many people don't. I mean, I've tried to help people, finance them, and get them. I brought David Icke to America when nobody in America had ever heard of him. I brought him to America, gave him money, gave him a place to live. I spent a lot of money on a lot of people. Richard Hoagland. I've spent a lot of money on a lot of people, scientists, astronauts, writers, researchers, lecturers, teachers. I've gone through and helped so many people because I wanted to promote wisdom and knowledge. And so I did the best I could with getting them on radio, getting them on television. And so many other people that I've helped do not even call to say hello. Like the Godfather said, you never invited me over for a cup of coffee. I mean, I never see you. You never come until you need something.
Yeah,
Now that you need something, now you come to see me.
yeah.
Yeah, if you had come to see me before, these enemies who did this to your daughter would be hurting this very day. But now your enemies will be my enemies. But
Yeah.
I don't care because I did what I wanted to do. I love doing what I was doing, helping other people who are writers, researchers, speakers, and teachers, and getting them out there and promoting them. I was promoting all kinds of people. I could tell you some stories about Zachariah Sitchin and turn your hair white.
Well, I would be absolutely thrilled if we could have you come back sometime soon.
We should
There's
absolutely. Oh,
so much more that we could cover. I myself have a research file that I would love to share with you. I'm working on a video project that involves what we talked about earlier, the astrotheology and the connection to Hollywood. I have personally identified over over 3 dozen Hollywood villain characters that have scars on their face. And I've identified them as the planet Mars, the god of war, all based on Emmanuel Velikovsky, David Talbot, Thunderbolts Project work. And I'm a big movie buff, and humans are pattern seekers, and I've recognized and identified this pattern of villains with scars on their face that usually go across one eyeball very often. A lot of times it's on the forehead, but it's very often it's cuts across an eyeball, and it relates to the planet Mars. And I have a whole presentation that I would like to show to you. Maybe I'll get my project done before we speak again. I don't know, but I would love to throw that at you. But I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you've got things to do, and it's getting late on our end. And I can't thank you enough for your time. I am thrilled and honored to have spoken to you. Thank you again. I just can't thank you enough. I'm blown away. I'm starstruck, and my gratitude is overwhelming. So thanks.
Well, thank you very much for your kindness and your kind words. I appreciate it.
Same here. I'm very, very grateful for you for having you on the show.
I
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
that you came on, and I appreciate that I got a chance to ask those questions and show you just some of the things in relationship to the stars and the scripture, because I know you speak a lot about the stars in scripture. So I thought maybe you might just enjoy a little bit of that.
I
So
did. It was very good. I'm going to keep in mind some of the things you said.
Well, I'll tell
yeah,
you.
and I reached out to you on Skype too, so you can always message me. And like I said, the one of the people I really, really want to speak to is Jay Widener. Even if it's just briefly, that is a gentleman that I would like to just tell him
Jay and I have been dear friends, very dear friends, as far back as 1988, 87, something like that.
yeah, I
Jay and
would
I have
definitely
been
love to have a
dear
conversation
friends.
with him. And I'm not looking to have the conversation live or anything. I just would like to talk to him about a couple's very simple things in relationship to alchemy and the movies and his Kubrick's Odyssey 1.
Yep.
And I would just like to let him know what that did inspire. And if I can share my screen on a Skype in a group call, that's just as good. I'm not looking for any type of fame or anything. I'm just looking to share with people who want to know. And I'm also looking to tell people who did inspire that it did inspire, and here is how, so that at least they can imprint that into their knowing. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I am sure that if I talked to him, he would be delighted to talk with you and do it on a Skype video so that you can see him and he can see you and you sit and chit chat with him as much as you want.
Okay, that would be
He
excellent.
was my producer at Gaia. He was actually producing the videos that are on Gaia. He produced a lot of them. He was a major producer for Gaia. And he called me and said, Jordan, I want you to come to Boulder, Colorado. I want to do a series of videos on you at Gaia, which it was very kind of him to think of me. And he spoke for me and got me to go to Gaia. And they paid me for my time and treated me well. And he was my buddy there. He was my friend who was the producer. but he and I had a great time together, and I was able to do George Norrie. I was able to do an interview with George Norrie on video at Gaia, and I met lots of other people, and so I know Jay so well. We go back a long time, and I could call him, and he wouldn't mind talking with you, I'm sure. So if you will email me, go on my website and email me and tell me who you are and where you met me when we were on the show, so I'll know who you are, and then give me your phone number and your Skype
You're
and
already
any
you're already
information.
Yeah,
you're already
I've got you
connected.
on my Skype.
You're already connected on Skype.
I'll send you a message on Skype, but I also sent you an email. I'll title it Influence Freedom Rufus Cat Show.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I already sent the email that you requested, just so you know, and it's entitled "Thanks." What did I entitle it? Thanks for the show and my work. So it's something to that effect.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's good. I'll see it. I'll get back to you. I'll call you back later.
awesome.
So
And we can talk.
I just wonder now, we haven't heard a word from our pal Gandalf. I don't know if he got busy with something else, or if he fell asleep, or if he's just been sitting quietly. So Gandalf, if you're
Well,
there,
his microphone is turned off. I can see that. And
No,
now he
no,
just
no.
turned it on. He just turned it on.
I've
Hey,
been here
Gandalf.
lurking the entire time.
you've
Don't
been
worry about it.
sitting
I see
quietly.
how you
Gandalf,
are.
have you got anything to say or anything to ask before we let our friend go?
Well, I don't want to take it into bizarre of a direction from.
Oh, do it, do it, do it, do it. I know where you're going. Do it.
Well, all right. This is something that it's not really something I like talking about publicly, but what's your? I would like to know your opinion on stuff more related to the paranormal. Like, there's a lot of stories about people seeing bizarre things in the woods, like be it in their house from
The
like
elementals.
yeah.
Well, let me just interrupt, Gandalf. Jordan has already mentioned that he has had his own Bigfoot encounter.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I encountered Bigfoot myself personally up in Washington State, about 100 miles, I think probably west or northwest of Olympia, Washington, when I was 19 years old. And I will never forget how scared I was. I've never felt that kind of fear before, but I was frightened to death.
Now, did you see Bigfoot or did you just hear it?
No, I heard him, and it
That's
was only about 25 feet away from me.
oh my
And it
god.
was in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was sleeping in a sleeping bag, and it was about 100 miles north and northwest of Olympia, Washington, up in the mountains, and I mean way up in the mountains. It took me an hour or two to drive up into the mountains with my friends. There were three of us, three boys. One, I was 19, my friend was 20, and his brother was 21 or 22. And we had a new car, and we drove up there. We stayed in the wilderness for about 10 days. And we encountered Bigfoot one night. We had just had dinner, and we were going to sleep, and we laid on the little river bank in our sleeping bags. And about 20 to 25 feet away was the forest, was the bush, and we were on the beach of the lake of the river, on the beach of the river, and we were sleeping. About 3:30 in the morning, I heard something moving, and it was moving on 2 feet. It was on bipedal, and it was 2 feet, not four. And I knew it. My gut knew it. And I was scared to death because I was thinking whatever it is very, very big. My gut told me whatever this is making this noise because it was moving toward us. It was moving toward us. And when it stepped and when it made a move with one foot, it would crack the leaves and the branches under his foot, and I could tell it was just 1 foot. And then I waited, I lay quiet, didn't move, and the next time, a couple minutes later, I heard another foot, and it looks like it sounded like it's coming closer. And it was scaring me to death, but I didn't even think about Bigfoot. Back then, I didn't really know about Bigfoot. And so all I know is there's something very large on 2 feet, and I could feel it. I just knew it was there. I could feel it in my spirit. Something is right there, about 20 to 25 feet away from me, and we are out here, 3 stupid kids in our early 20s, and this thing is huge, whatever it is. And I finally moved and told and woke my friend up who's sleeping next to me. And I told him, I said, Richard, we've got problems. We got a problem here. What? And I said, we got company. Something is standing there in the bushes watching us. And so he's listened, we listened again, and then we heard another foot moving, crackling of leaves and branches. And then my friend Richard, he crawled under the car and woke his brother up, who was on the driver's side of the car on the ground, sleeping in his sleeping bag. And he punched him and woke him up and told him, we have company in the woods right here, right in front of us. Whatever it is, it's standing right here in front of us. And so Roy, he was the older of the 3 of us, he reached up and unlocked the front door because he was laying next to the front door, and reached in the back seat on the floor. And that's where he had a 45, I think it was a 45 or 44 Magnum. And thank God at least he had a gun. And I didn't even think to bring one, but he did. And so he leaned, he cocked the pistol, and then he reached up very quietly with the door half open. He reached up to, he could hit the dashboard of the car, and he flipped on the lights. And when he flipped on the light, this thing walked away very quickly. We could hear it walking away into the forest, but it was walking very heavily. You could tell it was moving very heavily. And so it had to be on 2 feet. And what else is on 2 feet up in the middle of the wilderness of Washington State, 100 miles away from civilization, and walking on 2 feet? And it just scared me to death, because I thought when I first heard it, if it's some kind of a monster, if it's a bear, we're dead. And then it finally dawned on me, you got mountain lions up there weighing hundreds of pounds. You got all kinds of predator animals, and we're out there cooking food and drinking beer and having the time of our life, never realizing there were powerful animals watching us. And we're so stupid we didn't realize it until that night.
You know what's funny about that? Your story is really similar to my story, whereas you were in your late teens, early 20s. I was just turning 17, and I was camping with friends down by a large pond here in central Ontario, and I picked up a single log to throw it into the other pile of logs just to get some of the leaves off of it. It was pretty damp out still,
Yep.
and that probably is what I think triggered the Bigfoot, because knocking is, to Bigfoot, it's seen as like a type of intimidation to them, or it's like a challenge. And right when I did that, I took just a piece of wood, threw it into the pile of the other logs, and this strange, bizarre scream howled back at us. And me and 3 other people heard it, and we were terrified, right? Thing is, we're in Canada, so we don't have any guns, so we had to stay out there the entire night, and
Yeah.
it was a nightmare. We stayed up probably till dawn after what we heard, and I was drunk, I'll admit that. So what the worst part about the whole thing that went down that night was, I picked up another log and threw it into the pile, and it made another loud clacking noise through the woods. And this time, when the thing replied back at us, it sounded pissed, and it was mad.
Yep.
I had no
Because
idea.
you were probably what it considered to be his territory, and you are making noise and threatening, making noise in his territory, and like a gang, you don't go into somebody else's territory and make trouble unless you're looking for trouble.
Yeah, so I just think it's fascinating that, people do have these experiences with these paranormal entities, these beings, whatever they are. That's a whole nother conversation about exactly what all these beings that all these people like you, like me, many others have seen. And, you know, people
I've had experiences where aliens have come in my motel room.
really.
Yeah, my motel room up at Area 51. I saw 7 incredible UFOs right over our heads playing with us, and it's scary and frightening. And when we went back to the motel at the little alien in the middle of the night, an alien came in our motel room and scared the flying crap out of it. And so I know that the aliens exist up at Area 51. There's no doubt about it because we've seen them. And we know that there are extraterrestrials on the earth everywhere because I've had run-ins with them. I've had my own experiences with extraterrestrials. So I don't have to worry about if they're here or not. I know they're here. What I'm concerned about is what are they going to do ultimately, because they are in control and we're not. And they know what we're doing. They're watching us 24/7. And I got a feeling they're getting ready to do something very soon. And that's why the world is so crazy right now, is because I think mankind realizes somebody else is here and there's nothing you're going to do about it. So you better protect your women and get yourself a gun and protect your home and your children, because something evil is coming. And you don't want to know what it is. It's going to be far, far more incredible than what you like that one astronomer said. The universe is not only stranger than you imagine, it's stranger than you can imagine.
Oh, I
There's
believe.
stuff going on out there in the universe you have no idea in the world what's going on. We know what's going on out there. We've seen pictures and videos, from the military of what's actually going on. And where I am in northern Arizona, I've seen things in the sky here that if I were to tell you, you wouldn't believe it. But I had happily 3 other people were sitting on the back porch with me. We don't have a roof on it. We were sitting on the back porch, and something just incredible showed itself in the sky to us, and we were blown away. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And it was an incredible mind trip seeing this thing with our own eyes. There were 4 of us. There were 4 of us who saw the same thing. And so I know that there are extraterrestrial life forms here because I've seen them. I've had dealt with them. I know they're here, and I know that they don't want to hurt us. I know that because if they did, we would have already been dead. But I know we don't have any control over them, and they are in control of everything. And people may think that's funny. My feeling is, I don't care. Think it's funny, laugh at it. But God help your ass one day when they show up, and they're not coming here to entertain you. They're coming here to eat you. They're coming here to control you. They are far superior than we are. Their technology looks like magic that we don't understand. And that's why if you were to see one, if you didn't die from seeing it out of fear, you ask them if they're God, and they will tell you, no, we're not God. We're just smarter than you are. We've been around for a long time. And we found you. You didn't find us. We found you. We're from 1,000 light years from here. But we found you because we knew where you were, because we're far smarter than you. We've got technology you don't even know about. So I'm assuming that we are nothing more than in the hands of extraterrestrial life forms. Of that, there's no doubt in my mind. and they are running our world for us and guiding you in your destiny as a human being, and you don't even know it. They are playing with you, just like the grown adults play with a child. They know the child has no knowledge and no experience, and they can fool them and laugh at them and do whatever they want with them because they're children. And so that's what these extraterrestrials are. They're looking at us as little children, and they can play with us. They like the women. They're beautiful, so they can rape the women anytime they want. Nobody's going to say anything because nobody's going to know what to think about it. They can rape your children. They can destroy you. They can kidnap you and your children and your family. They can do all kinds of things. They can actually pick you to be a producer in Hollywood and make you rich and wealthy and give you all kinds of wonderful ideas for movies that will blow people away, and people will say, "Oh, that producer is just sensational." No, he's not sensational. He's a tool in the hands of extraterrestrials that you don't know anything about. They're the ones that gave him the ideas, and they're the ones that made it happen. He is merely doing their will. As long as he does their will, he'll be wealthy and powerful until he decides not to do their will. So I know what's going on in Hollywood. We could talk about that another time.
Well, I gotta say, I completely agree, but I would even maybe privately, I would go a lot further than
Yeah,
you're actually going to go with a lot of this stuff. I've had some bizarre encounters with things, things that I would never talk publicly about for good reason.
that's what I've said, the same thing. You got to know I've had strange experiences, things I've never told you about ever, and I would never talk about in public.
There.
If you know Zachariah Sitchin, did he ever tell you anything of any importance that all the rest of people don't know? And I said, well, my God, did he ever? He told me stuff that would, blow your mind if I told you. But I
Well,
can't tell you. I'm not about to tell you because, I'm not going to talk about a man who's now gone. He's left the world, and I just leave it alone. But I know things he told me that will blow your mind.
well, I
So
tell you what, Jordan, there's a very high probability that I'm going to jump in my RV and I'm going to drive out to Laughlin, Nevada in February. And,
okay.
and I am going to shake your hand, sir. And I just want to thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. It's getting late for us. And
That's fine, but you know what? If you're actually coming out, and you are coming out, if you want to, it might be if you wanted to come by and pick me up, I drive to Laughlin with you. If you wanted to come pick me up, I gotta get
well,
there somehow.
you're in California.
No, I'm in Arizona.
Oh, well, I'm in Atlanta.
Okay,
Um,
well you gotta come through Arizona anyway.
well, I'll tell you what, if you're making me an offer to pick you up and take you to the conference, I will hereby announce my commitment to do so.
Well, let's just leave it in the air because we don't know what will happen, but we'll just leave it in the air that that's an idea. And if it works, it works. If something happens and you can't go, well, that's fine. And if you can't go,
Well,
then
I
I
tell you what,
understand.
I'm a contractor. I work for myself and by myself. So
Uh-huh.
I make my own hours and I choose my own path in life. So if I want to, I can drop everything and I can go to Laughlin at the drop of a hat. And if you're telling me now that you would like to have me pick you up and escort you to the conference, I will tell you now that I will make that commitment.
Well, I,
That's
I just think
that
it'd
to
be
me.
fun because I'm just thinking it's fun because it'd be about an 8-hour drive where we could sit and shoot the bull in private and chew the fat and talk about all kinds of stuff. And I could tell you all kinds of stories,
eh,
so
well,
just,
well, as long as you don't mind if I hit the record button, because
no, I don't mind as long as you
even
keep it
even if
private.
even if it's only for posterity, even if it's
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sneak anything under the table, and I'm not going to publish anything if you don't want it published.
I
But
don't want certain things published,
but
but what I
at
would
at
do,
least for posterity, it would be
yeah,
interesting to have that conversation on record.
I don't care what you do do with it after I'm gone.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I could tell you some stuff about people you don't even begin to think I know. I could tell you about people I know that you would not believe it, where I've been, and people I've met that you have no idea that I know.
Now, people in the chat are already egging me on to do it, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stay in touch with you, Jordan, and I'm going to hold you to it, and I'm going to show up in Arizona, and I'm going to pick you up in my freshly renovated RV, and it's fresh, it's clean, it's newly renovated, all inside and out. It's I swear to God, Jordan, I am not
Well,
shooting the shit.
keep me in mind, and email me and tell me that, and
That would be
remind me.
that would be one of the highlights of my entire life, would be to pick up Jordan Maxwell and take him to his last public appearance. I think I would be famous just for doing that.
Yeah,
Is there
and I would like to be able to do that because there's so many things I'd like to tell you in private.
is there any way, if I
No.
manage to get to Georgia by that time, that I could come down and join you?
As long as you can afford to pay for your way, as far as
I
we go, and as far as you get you back home.
I will. If I manage to get back to Georgia by then, I'll have some money.
Hell, I'll drive south from Ontario. I'll pick up Influence on the way in New York.
It'll be a party.
Well, then pick me up too if I'm still here in
Yeah,
New
you-
York.
Good point. I'll pick you both up.
Yeah,
Very-
they're both in New York. You can pick them both up. Come on down here. We'll ride out to Arizona, and it'll be a party.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Sounds
think that'd be a great
Wow.
idea. We'll stop and have hamburgers and beer and chit chat and talk about all kinds of stuff in private, and we'll go there together. And I'll send you the information where you should you should get your room. Get ready to get your room.
No, I've got an RV. I'll be living in my camper.
Oh, okay, that's right.
I've
That's
got
right.
I've got a
Okay.
motorcycle that I can travel from the campsite to the show, to the conference. So I'll park my RV at a local campsite, so at an RV campsite.
Oh,
And
there's all kinds of them there. All kinds of.
yeah. There's campsites everywhere. So
Yeah, of course.
no worries. And so the travel expense and the ticket expense for the conference is enough. I'll mitigate my expenses by staying at the RV campsite. And by the way, I do prefer cooking over an open fire, so
Oh, yeah.
I would rather do it that way anyway. There's a real
That
freedom.
sounds like fun.
There's a real freedom to
Yep,
being
I
able
like
to.
it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jordan, I'm going to hold you to it. I got you on record.
Okay,
I
and
got you on
remember,
record.
keep in touch with me on email because I want to make sure you keep in touch at least once a month. And so that when it comes time, I will know what I'm going to do, and I will know better what's going to happen, and then I'll call you. We'll talk about it. We'll set it up then.
Well, okay. As long as you don't back out, I am not backing out. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm already committed. So if you're even
Well, I
slightly
appreciate it.
interested, I'll make the commitment now, and I'll make sure that it happens.
Well, see, I don't know what life is going to be for me. I don't know if I don't know for sure. So I can't make a commitment when you're 80 years old.
No, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
You might be in the hospital, God forbid.
That's right. I might be in a hospital and I can't go anywhere.
No, don't you worry
I
about that.
don't think the spirit is going to let that happen. I think I'm supposed to be there and do what I've got to do, and then I can go.
Okay, well,
So,
as long as your health is in good shape, then we'll make it happen, Jordan.
well, okay. Keep in touch with me, everybody.
So,
And
I
the
did. I
best way to
sent
keep in
another
touch with
email
me.
too.
Say it again.
I did. I will, and I also just sent another email too and added you, and I sent my number and everything.
Good. Okay. All right, guys.
so Jordan,
I'm
do
gonna
you
go.
want to leave us with a one final thought, real quick?
Yeah. One final thought. When I hear people saying, well, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, I say, yeah, it's a freight train coming. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, yeah, but when it gets here, you're not going to be very happy with it. I don't think the I don't think the age of Aquarius is going to be very nice to humans. I think the age of Aquarius is going to be really freaky, really scary. Something's coming on the earth and it's going to initiate the coming of the age of Aquarius. And Adolf Hitler was planning for the age of Aquarius. The Communist Party in Russia was founded for the age of Aquarius. And the mafia plans for the age of Aquarius. And all the corrupt banking institutions of the world are planning something big for the age of Aquarius. And it's just a human family, the Joe Sixpack, that has no idea in the world what the age of Aquarius is going to be. It's going to be frightening. And we can talk about that later. Okay, guys, I got to go.
Okay, Jordan, you have a great night.
Thank you, Jordan, and enjoy the rest of your night.
I will. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
And keep in touch.
I will, for sure.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Love always.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
So I think I should probably end the stream, and then maybe we could do a hangout, like a post show. Do you guys want to do that?
Sure.
Well, yeah, but is Josh going live?
Yeah, I was concerned about Josh, and I don't really want to step on his toes. Maybe we could go join Josh and do our post show over
Well,
there.
I haven't seen him post. Has he been talking in the side chat at all?
I haven't seen Aaron, and I haven't seen Aaron and Josh in the side chat for a while.
Aaron was in there earlier. I didn't see Josh.
Yeah, she was in there quite a while ago, though.
I don't know what their plans are. Are they going live tonight?
Well, so I see what you're saying. I
don't know. I was
know.
just thinking it would be cool to do an after show, but I don't want to step on Josh's toes. You know. I want to.
Mark says Josh is in here. Josh, are you out there? Let's give him a chance to reply.
Josh, I tell you what, how do you want to do this? Should I shut this down and start a new one for an after show?
James is saying I don't think he's doing a show tonight. Is there a reason why? Did he say something to you, James, or did he type something?
Is it because of this show? Because I don't know. Was he doing that because he didn't want us to run over each other?
No, because he normally doesn't even start till 10, and we just ended at 10:09, which is almost perfect.
So Blue Blood's saying he doesn't see him live.
Well, yeah. Let's keep it at a sweet 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how about I close this out, and then I'll start a fresh one in 2 to 3.
Well, you don't have to close the hangout. We can just sit here and you can do the same thing. Just start a fresh OBS, new YouTube. We can still sit here.
I know, but I don't want it to run into the same stream. I want one stream to stop.
It won't. You just stop the stream.
And then start a new stream.
But we literally can just still sit in this hangout. It's still going to be the same hangout.
Okay, well, I knew that. I just wanted to let everybody know who was in the audience. Everyone in the audience, we are going to do like an after show discussion and wrap up. If the show, for everyone watching, if we disappear, come right back in like 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And we're going to call this an awesome interview, and we will restart a fresh stream in just a couple of minutes for our little after show wrap up. And I do want to say thanks for everybody that was hanging out with us, and if we don't see you again, thanks for joining us. And if you want to come back and hang out for the after show, then we will see you in a couple of minutes. And until then, be good to each other and pick up your fucking trash.
Love always.